Let's have some fun.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm all jacked up on that Zin and this coffee, man. I feel like I've got everything. I feel like I smoked 15 cigarettes.
Well, here we go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive presented by Better. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me over on X at Eric Lindquist. Happy to be here talking a little NBA action. Not a 14-game slate. It's on FanDuel, 8-game, 11-gamer we have going over here on DraftKings. So it's a little bit different. Context is going to be different across the industry, but I got just the guy that's going to be able to help you out. He's already talked about this slate this morning. Now it's me filling in for Lofty because Lofty's busy off doing other things, according to Josh Engleman. Go follow him. You know where to find him over on the Twitters. Come on now. How you doing, my dude?
Not too bad. We got to help that Laffy just doesn't roll in and stick his feet on top of Nancy Pelosi's desk, and we should be fine.
We have the right to assemble, or whatever the guy was yelling, to peacefully assemble. Oh yeah, you were real peaceful.
Yeah, congratulations. You're in jail now.
Always a fun start to the program, but smash the like button for us. That's for sure. We got Mike Lawrence there on the turntables. Excited to have him along for the next, 72 minutes. There we go. Good job, Eric. Good thing we're going to talk math for the next 11 game slate here. Anything that stands out to you here other than, hey, Luka, he kind of matters today.
He does. That the trickle down effect of that one is going to be massive. I'm still getting to Nikola Jovic in a way that no one else appears to be getting to Nikola Jovic. So that'll be a pretty interesting discussion point a little bit later, but he is in just about everything I'm doing. And that is not the way the industry is putting it out there. So not the guy that I want to be betting on, but apparently that's the guy that I'm betting on.
He legitimately has looked way better because, well, I hadn't seen him play a lot of basketball at any point in time. Neither did anybody else, but yeah. 4,400 for him. Went out and looked legitimately good against the Lakers. I watched that entire game out here on the West Coast, and I'm kind of with you. He's somebody that I'm going to get to a little bit of, but I mean, the value of the Dallas trickle-down effect is going to be gigantic. That might be a fun guy to sneak into your lineups here regardless. That comes later in that evening here. But anything else about this slate you want to talk about before we just dive right in? Because we got a lot to get to.
It's tough, and we've been seeing this a lot lately, and today is no different. We have this general lack of value that really makes it difficult to get all the way up to the top in terms of pay-up options, other than Tyrese Halliburton pulling 20% ownership right now. And that is happening for a very specific reason. That game has a 260, whatever the hell total, 20 points more than the second most games. So like you get why that's happening. Everybody else is in single digits. I mean, we've been watching Joel Embiid hang 2.1 fantasy points per minute for like the last month. He's 5% owned, and he's still not even the most expensive guy on today's slate. And like no one's getting there. And then $100 cheaper than that, you have Jokic, who's like extra special, you're not able to get to him. That feels insane. If he goes out there and just drops his like standard, Jokic had 35, 15, and 15, 1.5% of the field is the lineups that have him. Like that is just insane to think about right now. And yet it makes complete sense because the alternative is like, well, I guess I need to find out how much Nickeil Alexander-Walker I'm playing today. And it's like,
are you actually
unfortunately, my answer is 24%.
Oh God. That's more than you probably want. That's probably the nice benefit of having Luka getting ruled out at some point, hopefully.
Yes.
Because you won't have to probably have that anymore.
No.
I hope that goes away. Bye-bye.
Well, no, it's just going to be some other shitty guy that's not named Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It's Jaden Hardy, or pick any other idiot that's the 11th dude on the Mavs.
Jaden Hardy, the freest of the free squares if you have no Luka and he's starting, though. So I guess that kind of changes it up a little bit. But as I said before, smash the like button. We're going to dive right in, starting with Utah and Boston here. 14-point spread we've got in this one. Boston, we kind of know what you're running into. This is just a juggernaut here, and it makes the Utah side kind of uncomfortable. They have gotten progressively healthier. They are getting no ownership whatsoever outside of some smatterings of Kelly Olynyk. Does he have revenge in his heart? Jordan Clarkson off the bench, just setting the world on fire. He's up to 6,200, but I mean, all the box score watchers and all the land really like what he's been doing here of late. But are you landing on anything from Utah? Because I'm just not.
No, I have a couple shares of John Collins and a couple shares of Walker Kessler. I think if you get Lauri Markkanen, as you know, you build out a lineup, you have 8K left, and he's in your, well, in this case, he wouldn't be in your utility spot, but you get where I'm going with this. I would
Yeah.
never struggle to want to go to him, but this is a terrible spot. Boston is third in defensive rating. They don't play particularly fast, 22nd in pace. This Utah rotation is really hard to try to figure out. They can close with basically any one of 10 guys, and it would make a bit of sense. That becomes difficult. You've got Jordan Clarkson regularly coming off the bench now, so his popularity is interesting because they're 2 touchdown underdogs against Boston. Does he even get the final rotation? Probably not. If you're just basing it on the most likely scenario of Boston absolutely shutting down this Utah team, they're just in a really, really tough spot. So I can't really advocate for any volume for the Jazz.
Derek White on the Boston side, ninth in EPM right now. It is outrageous how good he's been. 5.2 estimated win share. I mean, what are we even looking at with this guy? He's been out of control, but from a DFS perspective, now that he's starting to gain more traction, more usage, it just dilutes everything. Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, I love the fantasy point per minute rate, 1.23, leading everybody not named Jason Tatum there. So maybe a contrarian piece to get to at 8,100, but he's exponentially more expensive than Cat, which makes it hard for me to land on in that range. And then I don't know. It just feels like having early game exposure could end up being a foolish thing here. But how are you feeling about the Boston side of it?
I mean, I love every one of the starters, but I love them all equally, and that's showing up
Yeah.
both in the public ownership and in my ownership. I have 6% Porzingis, 6% Drew Holiday, 4 of Tatum, Brown, and White. They're all like 3 to 5% owned. It's just really hard to pick one of them. They all are regularly out there. Their prices, generally speaking, stabilized. The matchup is fantastic, but it's really difficult to just look at one dude and say, that's the guy that I think we should be getting to. Because are you surprised if Porzingis is the guy that has the big day, or Tatum, or Brown, or Derek White at this point? I'm not. So I'm happy to fill out any one of those guys into the lineup. I don't really think it's all that important which one you grab.
Yeah, it kind of becomes a positionality thing. Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but like Kristaps Porzingis, because he's power forward center, I think there's maybe some more utility than trying to go to Brown, trying to go to Tatum, small forward, power forward. We're going to be punting there a lot today. It looks
Yeah.
like shooting guard definitely could end up being a punt with Jaden Harvey and guys of that nature. But I look at Porzingis as maybe having the most utility. But again, $900 more than Cat. And for me, that's just not going to make the cut, making out like 40, 50 lineups like I normally do. So anything else from this game whatsoever?
I don't think so. It's just a really difficult game to really want to get to. And we have I believe we still have the Q tag on Al Horford. I'm not so sure that really creates anything for us. And I've been intrigued by it because he's questionable for rest. Every game that he sat this year has been the second game of the back-to-back. So my expectation this entire time is that he sits tomorrow and not today. But if he sits today, I wonder if there's a plan to sit someone else tomorrow.
Interesting. I hadn't even necessarily thought about that. Who do they play?
I mean,
tomorrow?
look, it's a 7 o'clock start, so like none of
So,
it matters.
yeah, I mean, you kind of want Horford in the game tomorrow more than you'd want him today, right? Like that would just be sensical.
I don't know if that's going to be a track meet tomorrow. That old man might break down against Indy.
That's true. That is true. Indy likes to run a little bit. Speaking of them, they're up next. Welcome to the track meet that is a 262 total. Atlanta at Indy. Both of these teams just doing ridiculous things in the pace department. Indy, they're back to first there in terms of pace, 103.5 possessions per 48 minutes. You're not too far behind Atlanta at 102.1, fifth in the NBA. Yeah, I want to start here with Tyrese Halliburton and Trae Young. Obviously, Tyrese getting more ownership. Point per dollar, he's got nearly, 6X's evaluation, which, again, I don't think about all that much, but like, getting more than Trae Young's at a third the ownership of Tyrese Halliburton. That seems like a fun little tournament combination. Talked about them a little bit in an article I wrote this morning, but how are you feeling specifically about Tyrese Halliburton? Because this is a ridiculous projection that we're looking at.
He looks really good. I don't have the 20% that the field does. I don't think it's a crazy thing to have. I mean, we saw this game play out probably like a month ago now, and they scored 300 points in regulation. So you know what could happen. And that game was disgusting down the stretch. That fourth quarter, it was an all-star game. Like everybody was just like, you know what? Yeah. We're going to go ahead and not play defense. It was just lob after lob after lob. So I understand why neither one of these teams. This is 29th in defense, Indy, 27th in defense, Atlanta, first and sixth in pace. This is the second and fourth in offense. So it's all offense, zero defense, as fast as you can play. It's the ultimate game. The implied total for Atlanta, so they're the underdog here, 129.5. The implied total for Utah is 112. I mean, we're talking about a 17-point gap just for those teams alone. I don't mind I have 10% Halliburton. He's clearly an exceptional play. But if we're going to see all of these guys, whether they're playing or not, Edwards, Booker, Mitchell, well, Mitchell doesn't count because he's getting ownership. Edwards, Booker, Tatum, Durant, Trae Young, Shea, Jokic, Embiid, even Luka Doncic, they're all sub 10% and 9K or more. I also think that I could pretty easily just grab a different guy and use Tyrese Halliburton as a pivot. But don't get me wrong. He looks fantastic at the top end because of this matchup.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. And I love Trae Young on the other side here as we dig into the Atlanta side. I think, if this game does get back to those 150 apiece type numbers that we're looking at here, yeah, salary is still a thing. You've got to be contemplating that. People kind of disregard that and they just see the total and salivate. But I mean, the salaries are all reflective of like, this is still a game you want to get to where Trae Young's ceiling, the raw points you could be getting from a 65 burger from him, Halliburton, something that's intriguing there. But Trae Young, 6.7% ownership currently. DeJounte Murray, 7,700. Don't mind getting to some shares of him. But Jalen Johnson, 6,900. I landed on a ton of him last slate. I don't think the field's getting to him nearly as much this slate, this time around. We obviously have Mavericks news waiting in the wings, but 16.1% ownership here for him. Are you above or below that?
It's an interesting question. Thanks for not giving me the actual answer. I am on it directly with 16%.
So option C is what we're going to go with. Go ahead.
Neither.
Neither. What else are you landing on? Because again, the Bogdanovich ownership, I get it. I mean, he went completely ballistic. 6,100. Weird to have his tag come down a little bit there from 6,600 it was last slate. It's a great game environment for him, but like, what else are you landing on here from Atlanta?
I don't have nearly as much as I thought that I was going to have for this game when I, saw the total, basically. I have a small amount of Bogdanovich, a small amount of Murray, a little bit over on Murray, neutral to Jalen Johnson, as we just mentioned, very tiny amount of Bay, very small amount of Trae Young. I'll take anything I can get here. I'm very happy to have this as like a mini game stack. Any like 3-man or 4-man combo of these guys, you can make it work and feel pretty good about it. But I think Jalen Johnson is that best option. The problem for Trae Young, oddly enough, is that his rates are lower when Jalen Johnson is active. So while he does look good and those minutes have been creeping up, his usage does take a little bit of a hit with Johnson back and active. And that mutes him just enough for me that I can't get that big stand on him. So I'm casting a relatively wide net. The only guys that I'm not really getting to are the centers. Capella at 6,700, Okongwu at 5,100. I'd be more likely to want to get to Okongwu just because he has the power forward eligibility now. But since Jalen Johnson came back, these guys are basically just splitting the center minutes. I think 2 games ago, they might have played like 2 minutes alongside of each other. But now that they're back to just being the centers, it makes them look like totally reasonable guys to get to in a matchup like this, but not the same sort of interesting guys they could be when they were going to play 5, 6, 7 minutes alongside of each other.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson, somebody that early on, I was surprised that they didn't start the very first game out of the gate with Jalen Johnson starting. Thought in the preseason he looked better on the floor than Saddiq Bey did. And obviously things have kind of worked out in his favor. He's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. He gets things done across the stat categories and, just the rebound rate up there, even alongside of Capella, who definitely can grab himself a rebound or two. I like pretty much everything that they're getting out of Jalen Johnson. Projected for 35 minutes here at Stochastic. Nothing really to glare at there. I might have a little bit more Atlanta than you might, but I can tell you one thing. Indy, I don't have like anybody outside of Halliburton and Turner. Do you?
Let's find out. Not really. I have 8% Bruce Brown right now. Shooting guard, small forward, 5,300. Seems to be a guy whose minutes aren't going to get jerked around on this team, but it certainly could. I mean, they've got Aaron Nesmith, 5,500, that is. Nembhard, 53. Mathurin, 57. Bruce Brown, 53. Buddy Hield, 54. That's 5 guys with MPEs across the guard and forward spots that are all within $400 of each other and all basically the same price. So to get one it's really difficult because they have to separate from the rest of those guys. And I don't think any of them really do. I do think Halliburton and Turner are the best guys you can get to. They are the guys pulling the ownership. But I am lighter on this Indiana team than I want to be. I hate every bit of this. I wanted more of Atlanta and more of Indiana, and it isn't happening. That is not to undersell what these guys look like. Play Halliburton if that's a direction you want to go. Play Turner. Both great plays and a great matchup. Bruce Brown would be the guy that I would probably advocate for the most. I think Obi Toppin's a little sneaky, $4,600 power forward center. If everybody's just going to agree to not play any defense, then play Obi Toppin. Like, he sucks on defense, but if everybody's just going to suck on defense, his sucking stops mattering as much. And if this is just going to be a track meet, they're just going to throw him lobs on 3-on-2 fast breaks over and over again. I only have 4%, but the fact that he's power forward eligible could fall into a ton of minutes. Every once in a while, this dude just plays a shit ton. Played 27 last time out, 29.5 the game before that. A little bit will have to do with whether or not like their injury report breaks the way you want it to. Bruce Brown is still questionable. Nembhard is questionable as well. Brown had missed 5 straight before coming back in their last one. Nembhard got hurt 2 games ago and then missed their most recent game. So if we lose one of those guys or even both of them, then I think we start to really let loose on the Pacers.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Last guy I have a weird question about. How many minutes are you projecting Isaiah Jackson for?
Fuck that guy, man. By the way, Al Horford ruled out for rest. So everything that I said is stupid.
No, I just said it was more likely they're 14-point favorites here. Just utilize his dead body for 16, 20 minutes tomorrow instead.
I could have just shut up and never got a wrong opinion on this show to start, but unfortunately, out of the gate, it happened.
11 games. I'm going to get 94,843 things wrong as we go along, so it's okay.
What did you just ask me?
Oh, I asked you how many minutes you had Isaiah Jackson projected for.
I went 13. I'm so happy that he's up to 4K right now.
Yep.
I think 20 is obviously like a functional ceiling for him if you wanted to just say he's the backup center. I don't trust them in any way to break this one down. So much will depend on whether or not those two guys are in or starting. If Jalen Smith maintains his spot at the 4, then I might bump up Jackson to like 15 before we go, because then it just leads you to believe that he is going to be the center. But I think we need that lineup first.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm just asking because Duop Reith sitting at 4K. I know you can play both. DraftKings, they allow you to play 2 of those idiots, so it works. Yeah. But Isaiah Jackson, if you get 18 minutes out of him at a 1.2, 1.25 fantasy point per minute rate, he's somebody that at least shows up in my lineups. But as I've reduced him a little bit, I think about this logically just in the way this game should play out. It should move. Maybe they just have more, as you said, more minutes Obi Toppin, more minutes Jalen Smith. You get away from having that 18 to 20 minutes of Isaiah Jackson. But if you get it, and we don't have news about that value, and then Luka ends up ruled in or something, you could have him plus Reith, and that would be a fun combination of just like punting your lineups that way a little bit. So just a guy to randomly bring up who I've been punting with a lot more than I expected to in recent weeks. So thought I would bring him up to finish out Indy.
No, I like it. He's a guy that I get to a lot as well. I actually had him in that, whatever the big contest was like 2 nights ago, the 250K 888 or whatever. I think I had 2 lineups with Isaiah Jackson. He was decent enough, but the rest of my stuff was dog shit.
NBA DFS is hard, guys, but it's a little bit easier when you check out everything here at Stokastic. And if you want to get a free month of it, well, how about you finish really, really well in one of those tournaments? You finish top 3 of a tournament of 5,000 or more entries, dollar entry fee or higher, and you're going to get a free month of any Sims package that you would like. And yeah, the Sims, we work through it here on this show on NBA Live Before Lock coming up next year with I have no idea who at this point in time. We've got Greg Ehrenberg, I believe, alongside Matt Belman. There we go.
I think so.
So that'll be a fun one. Fun combination to hang out with. So check that out. But Stokastic Avatar, go to the Stokastic HOF, tweet your wins over there. So stokastic.com/avatar, download the avatar, have that uploaded. Finish at the top of those tournaments and get your Sims package for free. That is good stuff, friends. We continue on our merry way. Again, making good time. Oklahoma City, 4.5-point favorites, taking on the Brooklyn Nets. And there are games that we're going to be able to save some time with. This one at least has some ceiling potential in it with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course, Chet Holmgren, somebody at the center position I'm routinely overweight to. But the guy pulling the most ownership, Josh Giddey, where I don't know how to play the Josh Giddey game, where one day, 27 minutes putting up 40 spots. The next day, I know it was on a back-to-back going up against Atlanta, but 22 minutes, far less serviceable. He's a guy who can fill up the stat sheet from time to time, but outside of the studs, not really getting to a heck of a lot here from this side of it. How about you?
Very little. I do have 10% of Shea, which
Okay.
makes a lot of sense to me considering I just said that I was under on Tyrese Halliburton. These guys are basically the same dude for today in terms of price. Slightly better matchup for Tyrese Halliburton, but limited ownership. If he's 6% and Halliburton's 20, I don't mind taking a little bit away from that and going to Shea. And then it's just mostly the starters. And by mostly the starters, I mean just Dort and Giddey. I do have a little bit of Isaiah Joe. I'd do anything to make that go away. Because I don't trust it. I know why it's happening. I don't trust it in any way. I only haven't projected for 16 minutes. I haven't projected for 13 fantasy points. It's not good, but it's a testament to what these prices look like today. He's shooting guard, small forward, and that flexibility is apparently something I need, but it's only 6%. So I could pump the brakes. I just don't see us getting to a lot of OKC here. I mean, the best guys are obviously their starting five, if that's who you want to go to DFS wise. But Jalen Williams' price is pretty healthy for a guy that's about a fantasy point per minute. All these guys are just stabilized. They've been so healthy as of late that like SGA, Dort, Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Chet are just there all the time. So their salaries are what they're supposed to be. That's not helpful on an 11-game slate.
Surely is not. And you look at like some of the matchups, they could walk into more minutes of whomever they need based on who Brooklyn's rolling out there. Aaron Wiggins been playing some minutes. Kenrich Williams, we obviously know can get mixed in there as well. Just so healthy and so difficult to land on anything. Kind of exactly what you're looking at here with Brooklyn. You do have the piece of Lonnie Walker, who will be coming back into the mix here and just really kind of waters down a lot of my interest here. Mikal Bridges, once upon a time, was somebody that I randomly rostered a bunch here. Well, not even random. He was just such a good fantasy point per minute guy acquired by Brooklyn. Cam Thomas minutes are coming down as he started to shoot the ball worse and worse, which was kind of expected, but 13.7% of him right now in our projections is a healthy amount. He is a 1.05 fantasy point per minute guy, but are you getting to the field on him?
I'm getting way more of Brooklyn than I thought that I was going to be getting today. Yeah. Well, maybe way more might not be the right way to say it, but Cam Johnson's 3% owned. I have 8. He plays around 30 minutes a night. You get an MPE 6,200, reasonable. I have 16% Dinwiddie. That price is at 6,300. I never trust that dude's minutes in any way. Sometimes it's 37 like it was on New Year's Eve, and it's 28, but I gave him 31.
21 against New Orleans. Well, that was a blowout, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I got him at 31, so I got 16%, so I'm a little bit over the field. The guy that I have the most of, and I tried to walk it back a little bit from earlier, but I'm 2xing the field on Mikal Bridges right now. 7,100, shooting guard, small forward. Has not been playing well, but as I mentioned on the strategy show earlier today, like we're talking about a guy that was in the high 8s like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, I thought that price tag was insane then, but I also think this one is probably a little bit too low for him, especially with Cam Thomas out of the starting lineup. To take a guy with a 30% usage rate, remove him from the starting lineup, and not really replace him with a guy that's comparable, there's more shots to go around for Bridges. He's crossing the best positional spectrum that you can get to, and you're getting him at the cheapest price you're going to find. He's way more likely to be 7,600 2 games from now than like 6,800 and drop below 7K. So I'm kind of just squeezing out that value that they have for him today. It's mostly just because that price has come down, but 0.92 DraftKings points per minute over the last 30 days. That's why his price came down.
Yeah, that's a better case than I was kind of looking at. For me, you just kind of look at the forward position. There's a guy $100 more than him than Cat that's just eating up everything in my lineups. We'll talk about Cat in a little bit because I find this to be very frustrating. I mean, as a Timberwolves fan, we're having a phenomenal year and things are nifty, but there's some volatility to the minutes that never existed for Cat at any other point in his career. So it is what it is. So 7,100, Mikal Bridges, there's not a ton of volatility for him. He's going to play his 34, 36 minutes, assuming this is competitive, and no reason you wouldn't.
Yeah, 4.5 point line in Brooklyn. Like you should expect Bridges to play, 35 minutes at a minimum, and he could certainly play upwards of 38 if this one's tight.
All right, well, let's get to a game that there is 1 or 2 pieces of massive chalk from. We got Washington and Cleveland playing for what feels like the 84th time in a row. I don't understand NBA scheduling this season, but I know they just played here recently. DeLon Wright, He's going to be playing here on Friday, and he is pulling tons of ownership here on the Washington side of things. They're visiting Cleveland, double-digit dogs here, 10-point dogs, but we're just going to start with him because this is an uncomfortable 3,600 to be spending on a guy that we have projected for 19 and a half minutes. He played 18 last time out. Maybe we could see something rise a little bit, but Tyus Jones and Tyus Jones could be on his way out here in the next month or two. And Jordan Poole, they wish he could be out of there in the next month or two, but that's not going to happen. What do you think about Delon Wright pulling 23.2% ownership on today's slate?
He's clearly a good point per dollar play on a day where we have no like real value plays.
Yeah.
And I don't think 23% ownership is crazy. Right now I have 12, but he is somebody that I'm going to dig into over the next 2 hours for this reason. We got the news earlier today that Landry Shamet is out. They have been relatively loath to play Danilo Gallinari as of late. Now, I know I'm talking about two very different positions here, but we're talking about guys that were in the rotation. DeLon Wright is still working his way back from being out for basically the entire year. He's only been back for 4 games. He played 1, sat 1, and now has played 3 straight. 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 18 minutes. Do they just give him more minutes in place of Landry Shamet? Can we expect, like, I don't know how many we can expect, but I wouldn't think it's crazy for him to play like 22 or 24. We've already seen that he can play alongside Tyus Jones if they want him to. I just don't know what Washington actually wants. But he's like, I don't know, a 0.85 fantasy point per minute guy. At 18 minutes, I can get to half the field. If I go to 20, I will easily be at the field. And I think that's a very realistic spot to be. He could be the guy that just benefits. It could also just be Corey Kispert, Bilal Coulibaly. They have so many different options that it's hard to be confident. But I think the floor is pretty high for DeLon Wright. Like, I'd be very surprised if he didn't play that same sort of 18 minutes that he was already playing.
I think that's fair. I mean, we had a weird situation with the blowout last time out where Bilal Coulibaly played every minute starting from the 7:43 section of the third quarter till the end of the game. He ends up with 33 minutes. I think assuming a competitive spot, he comes out of there, putting him, at a more mitigated number, like right around 25 minutes there. Kispert, right around 20. I think this is just, it's hard to really dig out anything out of that last box score because, as you said, just a little bit of a different situation with no Landry Shamet. But Landry Shamet had been kind of, subbing in second quarter, I believe was his first rotation. He played 5 minutes in the second quarter last time out, which is kind of strange. Like, if there wasn't the blowout, do they maybe just run him out for 8-10 minutes? And, does that go directly to Delon Wright? That's a big question because, and this is quite a bit of ownership for a guy that may or may not exist when we get to lock, depending on when Dallas news drops. But this is, an hour before that Dallas game. And DeLon Wright, I think there's no doubt that those $3,600, if there's going to be some type of a minute ceiling there where you could get him to 24, I would be very excited about it. Would be very unexcited to see him play another 18-minute stint because that probably wouldn't go very well.
No, if he's only playing 18 minutes, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. You're just hoping that he can soak up a little bit of extra playing time, potentially close. Who knows? I doubt it, but maybe. It's just a really tricky team. But 23% ownership, I understand why it's happening. I'm not getting to the 12% ownership that's on Tyus Jones because I decided instead to play 16% of Jordan Poole.
Oh, good. That's fun. Jordan Poole sucks. And this is just I thought he'd at least be good from a fantasy perspective at some point. Thought about firing his over 15.5 point prop when that thing has come crashing. It was sitting low 20s for like a month and a half, and it has just come crashing down to the moon on it. 6K for him, you're getting to 16%. That must feel really good.
Do you know that you are just your name on the screen right now?
Oh, am I really? My camera keeps, whenever I use the Sims tool, it just kind of goes bye-bye on me. It's okay.
That's interesting. Those two things should not be related.
So they are somehow related. Oh, there I went again. Don't mind me. So this is when Jordan pulls out the 40-year-old version, the thing where he's getting the wax ripped off on him.
Yeah.
He'll pull that out.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yep, that's me. Oh, shove them off. Check my like
you're not a 40-year-old version. You're what, 30 something?
Yeah, 36. My wife lets me watch. It's great.
Good. Let's.
You don't want
yes, Jordan Poole sucks. Jordan Poole sucks. I agree. But
16% of them seems fun. I totally get it, by the way. I totally get it.
He's still a 0.95 fantasy point per minute guy.
Exactly.
You just He's so self-fulfilling. Like if that dude gets out and makes a couple shots in his first rotation, he's gonna keep letting it rip. So that's fun. He's not gonna get phased out. That's the only helpful piece of this, but obviously difficult matchup against Cleveland.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have said that. People are dying in the chat. There you go. Eric Bennett, the freak out. You don't even want to know. Let's go to Cleveland because that seems like a good use of our time. Donovan Mitchell, he is popular and should be 9,500, getting another phenomenal spot here. He was giga chalk the other day, as downside of me would say on the twitters.com. But 22.4% of him, this is appropriate, and I'm going to be a little bit over, it would appear, if the slate started this second. How are you handling him? Because I feel like the word good chalk is just applicable.
He is my favorite play of anybody that has like a real pulse. I have 58%. I think he looks fantastic. Point guard, shooting guard, 9,500. Very different dude with no Garland and no Evan Mobley around. 31 points prop just for today, plus 6 and 5. So he's the guy that I'm getting to heavily. I was very heavy on him 2 nights ago. They just didn't need him because Washington's so shit. Everybody else was able to help, whether that was Sam Merrill or Max Strus or Jared Allen had a monster day that day. So
my God.
Yeah, Karis LeVert. More often than not, I'm just going to assume that Donovan Mitchell is the one that is giving out the beating. So I'm hoping that happens once again here. And it feels a little bit better to get that done at home. You can really get the home crowd behind you for Mitchell if he's dropping bombs on them. But I want a lot of this. Spoiler alert, everybody. The Washington Wizards aren't good. Dead last in defensive rating, 3rd in pace. This starts to make everybody look. The Wizards are so bad that I have 2% of Dean Wade.
Oh, good. Oh,
now
good.
He's 7% owned, so I'm under the field. But I'm just saying, I got him. I got 12% of Tristan Thompson right now, which is a little scary. But I don't have Jared Allen. So if I'm not getting to only 2% of Allen. So if I'm not getting to Allen, I will more than happily. 8% ownership already going to Tristan Thompson. Again, we don't have value, but if things are going bad for Allen, that's just more minutes for Tristan Thompson. I only gave him 13 minutes. It's not like I'm fond of him in this spot. But the guy that I have second and third most, 2 other starters. That's Max Strus, 20% at 6% ownership, and 18% of Isaac Okoro at 5% ownership. I just want pieces of this game. Looks to me like I'm getting to the extra pieces of Cleveland in the way that I thought I would have gotten to Atlanta and Indiana.
I'm with you. Max Strus, 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer with no Mobley, no Garland on the floor this season. Even Isaac Okoro, surprisingly, 0.8 over the course of this season, like not a complete 0. And that's a decent, healthy sample size, 353 minutes. Year-end sample size could be more applicable. But Karis LeVert, 1.18 DraftKings points per minute guy. The Jared Allen thing's curious to me. 1.27 with no Mobley, no Garland. Why not him today?
I think it might probably just an ownership thing.
Okay.
Center's weird. We do have value center options on the slate right now. I wouldn't. He's projected really well. I think he looks good. I would happily, if I had double the field, I would not at all be mad that I had Jared Allen. But I have 12% Embiid, which we'll get to a little bit later. He's 5% owned. I would certainly rather get all the way up to the top. But after that, it's really blurry. A part of my issue is that I have Nikola Jovic in basically everything that I'm doing. And that is causing me, that's soaking up a lot of my center exposure.
Gotcha. Well, I skipped a game. Sorry, Mike. We'll go back to it right now. New York Knicks taking on Philly. Did you have anything else from that one, by the way?
No,
Dean
I don't think
Wade,
so. Play Donovan Mitchell.
There you go. That seems like a good thing. And Sam Merrill will continue. If I roster him, he will completely dud. And if I don't, he will put up 40. So I'm very excited.
I have 2%.
Oh, I will not.
Same thing I said 2 days ago is the same thing for today. I'm okay not having Sam Merrill if he's going to be owned. I think I can find a different version of that. That didn't work last time.
I'm with it. Yeah, it didn't go well for me either. Let's jump to Knicks, Philadelphia. We'll talk a little bit better here at the halfway point of the show. Smash the like button here as we break this one down. The Knicks taking on the 76ers, 6-point dogs they are. And starting with the Knicks side of things, Precious Achiuwa somehow, some way pulling the most ownership here. I will do just about anything other than 3,600 Precious Achiuwa here. I don't know if we see him ramped up to 16 minutes anytime soon here. 8 and 12, his first two in a New York Knicks uniform. That does not inspire awe. Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson in any matchup are going to be pretty appealing. You're getting a little bit of a decrease to their salaries taking on Philadelphia here, but I don't know. It feels like a strange thing, but I'm starting to get Isaiah Hartenstein in my lineups, and it's not just looking back and seeing 39, 37 minutes the last two with, an auspicious amount of rebounds last time out, but has more to do with center isn't normally like this is a position that I generally am there's some kind of good chalk that emerges. I don't really find that to be the case today. I'm happy to get to as much Isaiah Hartenstein, 20% that I'm getting to him right now, my highest owned New York Knick. How are you looking at this team on today's slate?
I'm under on everybody except for Randall, and I'm neutral to Randall. I don't want to rain on your Isaiah Hartenstein parade, but I think I'm about to do that.
I'm ready.
I think this isn't as actionable as you would like it to be, but I think you need to warm your heart up a little bit to Precious Achiuwa at 3,600. And here's why. Because you and I both know who's on the opposite side of this game.
Yep, he's scary.
Last season for the Knicks, Isaiah Hartenstein was 15th percentile in foul rate. This season, he has improved to 26th percentile. Neither one of those two numbers are a good thing when you're facing someone like Joel Embiid. I think you're live to just see a couple extra minutes out of Precious due to simple game script of Joel Embiid being Joel Embiid. And the fact that if he was just center, it wouldn't matter as much. But the fact that you can get to him at power forward, I'm guessing if Hartenstein picks up a couple fouls, you could see a couple extra minutes of Precious. Now, they could just toss Taj Gibson. That is difficult to say. Toss Taj Gibson out on the floor for a rotation to eat a couple Joel Embiid fouls if you need to. But I can see, like, if Precious is already 11% owned, there's probably not a lot of meat left on that bone, but I can see the path that it's taking. If you're right and he stays out of foul trouble, you're live to see Isaiah Hartenstein play like 38 minutes tonight. There is certainly an upside to it if he keeps himself on the floor.
Now you got me freaked out because, again, in my sheet, I'm looking at the center in the NBA with the highest defensive plus minus. Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm looking at him. I didn't even have the foul rate on the sheet, so I'm really glad that you pointed that out. I know Isaiah Hartenstein, you're never getting usage. 10.5% usage here. You're not going out and, rostering him for that, but like at 6K, I think there's a lot of game scripts where, yeah, he's going to get you in trouble here, but I'm kind of okay with it because people don't want to play people against Joel Embiid for the foul trouble as is. And that's kind of reflected in 9.4% ownership coming off of 39 and 37 minutes. And maybe you're right, where Precious Achiuwa gets on the floor more because of that. But like the ownership's already there for him, and there's far more uncertainty. 3,600, like you're asking for a lot of things to go right going towards him. Whereas Isaiah Hartenstein just needs to keep his hands to himself, and he's going to be around a 0.95 fantasy point per minute guy that they're going to want on the floor every possible minute against Embiid.
If I were getting to him, I wouldn't be mad about it because you just see that giant minute ceiling. So don't let me put your fire out here, but it just makes me nervous,
I appreciate you looking out for me and stuff.
That's all I try to do here.
That I need more than that. We've got on the Philadelphia side, Nicholas Batum pulling like ownership as well. He's 3,900 or whatever. But the main guy that I wanted to talk about, because you brought him up earlier, is Joel Embiid. Sounds like you're double the field. Tell the people why, because he's pretty good at basketball.
2.12 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days. He is on a completely different level right now. He's dropping 30 and 10 every time out, basically in 3 quarters. I have 12%. I would happily get more. If we were sniffing any sort of value, I might actually be able to do that. But even at 12%, I will take what I can get. I think he's the best pay up option that you can get to that isn't Tyrese Halliburton today. That's why you're seeing, and he's also not in a game with a 260 total.
Yeah.
I also don't think anybody needs to hear that they should play Joel Embiid if they want to. That should be as obvious as it gets. Plus a matchup against the Knicks, like Knicks Philly, feels like the type of game that Embiid gets up for more so than other types of games, especially when you've got half of the Villanova Alumni Association coming to this one via the Knicks. I'm actually getting to 8% Tyrese Maxey too, who's only 4% owned. I think he's really sneaky today. We're talking about now a price tag 8,500. Like he's been coming down quite a bit, and no one is really looking at him. The Knicks aren't the best transition defense in the league, and I think that's kind of appealing because
Mhm.
Tyrese Maxey looks like he gets shot out of a cannon anytime there's a steal or off a rebound. So
He has some
I
Derrick
like him
Rose
in
to him.
GPPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's some Derrick Rose to Maxey, and it's fun to watch. I'm with you, by the way. Tyrese Maxey, if we get the Kyrie Irving chalk spot, if we get that news before lock, because again, 8,400, I think there's a huge minutes downside for what people might be projecting Kyrie Irving for today. We'll see what ends up happening if that news ends up coming to fruition. But I'm with you where I think Tyrese Maxey would immediately become somebody that I want to get to. Terry Rozier in that same price range, somebody else that I'm pretty interested in as a tournament pivot, building out in your 3 max, building out 20 max, building out 150. Just somebody to kind of mix and match in as opposed to just getting to copious amounts of Kyrie Irving, who is actually at a lower fantasy point per minute rate without Luka Doncic on the floor this season, which I found to be very surprising breaking that one down. But we will get to the ins and outs of that, of course, coming up shortly. But anything else you want to touch on from the Philly Knicks game?
No, I don't. I really don't see how you're getting to anything else for this Philadelphia team right now, even with Melton out.
All right. Well, let's get ourselves over to Better Than Friends. Better, they're the sponsor of our program, BETR. And here's a couple of reasons that you want to be signed up there. First off, $500 first match deposit bonus, way more than the 100 you're getting at other pick'em sites. So it gives you a great opportunity to go lock in a massive bankroll over at a new site. You're playing 2 through 8. Yeah, you can play up to 8 pick'em plays in one slip, up to 100x your money. Better is a phenomenal site. And again, that $500 first match deposit bonus, it doesn't matter if it's sports books in your area or pick'em sites. You want to be shopping for the best lines because sometimes it's prize picks, sometimes it's underdog, sometimes it's better where you have the best lines posted. And I don't care which it's at. I just want to attack the ones where my plays, the ones that I prefer that have the highest expected win percentage over at OddsShopper, can then be utilized into slips and make yourself some damn money. Obviously, they cover NFL as well, NHL if you're in those streets, MLB when that comes back. So they have a wide range of sports available to you over at Better. And it's just a great opportunity for anybody to start and sustain that bankroll right from the get-go with that deposit bonus. So you can sign up for that down at the link below or the link in chat. Again, phenomenal stuff coming from our friends at Better. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All righty, we continue on our merry way to Charlotte, Chicago. Is that next on my sheet? I can't fucking remember. I don't know shit today. Charlotte Chicago.
We got a piece of news. Andrew Nembhard is out.
Okay, Andrew Nembhard out. So Bruce Brown on the rise probably for me, if I had to guess.
Certainly looks, well, he's got to be in first, but certainly looks better.
TJ we didn't get Bruce Brown news with that?
Not yet, no.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That probably means TJ McConnell's good for like 18 minutes. I don't know his price right now.
4,200 right off the bat. Yep.
Let me think about this here. So 4,200.
He goes from having we're going for 1 fantasy point that I had projected for him before, and now I will put him in for 18. I think he's playable. I mean,
if DeLon Wright can be 20% owned.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the thing is, people do like to play themselves some TJ McConnell. Twitter went ablaze the other night once he was going to get some minutes there. 19 minutes for him. He's a ridiculous fantasy point per minute producer, 1.30 this season, so it's even elevated. Has a triple-double on the resume. How about that, TJ McConnell? But 20 minutes of him is actually intriguing today.
Yeah, if we somehow get Bruce Brown out, that'll be even more interesting stuff for Indiana. But we got the first piece of news. That's good.
Okay. Anything else you like from that?
No. Okay. No real changes otherwise.
All right. Well, let's talk Charlotte because this is a team that I don't like that I'm getting to. They're taking on Chicago. Chicago a little bit more watered down because Vucevic coming off the bench here in this spot. That'll be a fun one to watch. Andre Drummond still going to remain starting. Alex Caruso, he is in. Patrick Williams back as well. So pretty much back to standard here. And of course, Zach LaVine playing for Chicago. But Brandon Miller off the injury report entirely. You're going to get that typical Rozier, McGowan's, Miller, Bridges, Richards start. I don't even know what happened to Mark Williams and why he was doubtful for like 3 weeks. And now he's just out immediately, but it is what it is. Anything from Charlotte, because I'm getting just a smattering of Rozier, Bridges, Miller in like everything that I'm doing, and I hate it.
I've got 8% Rozier, 4% Richards, 4% Miles Bridges. I would take any Brandon Miller that I could get here, but the problem in this one is the 220 total. That's 42 points less than Atlanta and Indiana. Like, it's really hard to run that down if you've got everybody at the same salaries they're normally at. So I would happily have a center. The matchup is fine, but Chicago dead last in pace right now, and getting back guys that, well, don't play. I know the defense is probably a little bit worse if Levine is going to be back and playing, so that's probably
Yes.
helpful. And Vooch, I guess, to a degree. It's, to me, hard to get to a lot of Charlotte, but I think the starters are in play.
I'm just curious to see Kobe White playing this many minutes and how many minutes we're projecting him for alongside a combination of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. Because like this tag is going to have to come down for a while, I would expect. Even at 7,300, feels a little bit steep, but maybe I'm wrong about it. I'm just very curious to see how these rates kind of pan out together. I would expect his 22% usage to take a dip as well, that being Kobe White's, with Zach LaVine and his 26% usage being added to the fray. But Chicago, one of the least appealing teams on today's slate for me. Patrick Williams actually getting the most ownership in our projections. Don't really think I want to get to that today, but how are we feeling about Chicago?
I don't want to be getting to 14% Patrick Williams like I am,
Ooh.
but it is Charlotte on the opposite side, 28th in defense, middle of the pack in pace. You get an MPE at 5K. We just don't have a lot of guys that offer flexibility and like decent enough pricing. You can't play Levine at a minutes limit. You can't play Vooch at 7,800. You can't play Drummond at 8,300. I don't think you can play Kobe White at 7,300 with everybody in. You are just incredibly limited. If you want to take shots on anybody, it's probably DeRozan, and I don't think that's viable either. He's projected for 1% ownership. I think you just have to kind of run away from Chicago, other than Patrick Williams, who gets to play 30 minutes because they don't have other fours.
Yeah, there's certain rosters that I wish you could just like combine the two of them because they could have like superpowers. Like they basically have 0 fours, and then you have like 4 of them on San Antonio, so much so that like you're starting them as point guards and Jeremy Sohan and stuff like that. Victor Wembanyama is a 5, but he's actually a 4. They have so many 4s.
It's surprising that the Bulls are so bad with this incredible roster construction they've put together.
You mean you don't want to be investing 25-30 into Vooch a year as a negative EPM center?
They've got arguably like the worst future in the league.
Depends which. If Levine can come out and play well for them, that's the best case scenario, right?
Yeah, so they can trade him and get whatever they can get back for it.
That's what I'm saying. They're
going to end up getting D'Angelo Russell back or something.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That makes actual sense, though, I suppose.
Yeah, it's bleak, man. It's really bleak. I bet they'd like to go back in time and keep Wendell Carter Jr. in those first round picks.
Looking like Goga Batadze is outplaying Wendell Carter, though, so I don't know how that feels. That's an interesting one. Oh, Wendell. My Dukies. There's Dukies that pan out. Like Zion Williamson in our next game. He's going to be okay, right? As long as he can stay away from the gumbo.
Stay away from the gumbo and the gals, I guess.
It's still one of the best stories of the year. Anyway, we've got the Clippers. We got the Pelicans coming up here next. What is it? 1-point favorites are the Clippers. That's kind of flip-flopped between +1, -1 on both sides of it for the last, 18 hours. 230.5 total. Norman Powell, the only guy from the entire game pulling any kind of ownership. We'll start on the Clippers side here. The road team. I don't know how you get to anything here besides if you just showed up with a share of Kawhi, Harden, or George in anything similar to what we talked about a little bit earlier with like, Oklahoma City studs or Cleveland. I have no idea how you land on the Clippers today.
Just scattered amounts. Like the value of a shooting guard, small forward, Norm Powell makes sense for what we have today and for who's getting ownership. Like the shooting guard, small forward is totally fine. And then I have 2% of Paul George, 4% of Kawhi Leonard. Like no one's mad getting to those guys, but it's really hard to pick between those 3 main dudes. I have 2 shares of Daniel Tice right now at 3,500. He plays like 17 minutes a night. Just one of those, you need something to happen to Zubats. Actually, might take a minute off of him just in case. If something happened early to Zubats, they can now unearth Mason Plumlee again, which slows down how great I would feel about getting to a Tice value option. It's just not, again, like when all of these guys are in, it's a lot like Boston, where you'll happily take any one of their stars, but they also all look pretty similar on paper. I think Kawhi's the best option, but he can only be like, he's 3% owned. Like no one else seems to care.
And the Pelicans, Trey Murphy continues to be questionable. I have him in for now. I don't think his removal would really have me get to anything here the way that it has on other slates. Just the usage taking a little bit of a tick up here for CJ McCollum. Zion sub 8K, I suppose. But like, again, this is a team that's gotten healthier. They have a number of pieces, whether it's Marshall or Alvarado or Dyson Daniels, where they can dust him off from time to time, that are playing that 10, 12-ish minutes. I don't land on anything from New Orleans either. How about you?
I have 2 shares of Brandon Ingram, and that's it. We still have to wait out that Trey Murphy news. He's questionable. If he ends up out, you can squeeze a little tiny bit of value out of the rest of these guys. I love them as GPP pivots, whether that's Ingram, McCollum, or Zion. 8,200 for Ingram with great flexibility. Still a 1.18 guy over the past 30 days. CJ 7,300, point guard only, unfortunately. 1.1 over the past 30 days. Zion 1.25, 7,700 over the past 30 days. Like, these guys look like natural pivots to anybody that's getting ownership around them. Anyone you want to swap to, I think, makes some sense if you've got a relatively chalky lineup in a larger field contest. But I don't see how any one of these guys are the first guys you put in. They're the natural guy you put in to replace someone that you think is pulling a little bit too much ownership.
Anything else from this game?
Joe Val and Larry Nance continue to basically split the 20 or the 48 minutes at center. If Joe Val continues to be 6,300, I have no idea how you go down that road. And Nance now, if Nance doesn't have power forward as well, it becomes really difficult to want to get there.
Been playing 20 to 25 minutes every single time since he's gotten back. And, you know, again, that would be fun on some slates. 4,300 on an 11 gamer. I can't do that either, which is a bummer, but is what it is. Yeah, we continue ourselves on. We head over to Odd Shopper here first, friends. I do a lot of stuff over on the Odd Shopper channel covering a bunch of YouTube goodness, that is for sure. And, well, you guys could do it yourselves by heading over to the positive EV tool over at Odd Shopper and finding the best bets in terms of expected value on a day in, day out basis. And hey, for better, for underdog, for prize picks, for all of the great pick'em sites as well, you've got the fantasy optimizer tool there. That gets you access to that as well. And hey, continuing on our merry way, we've got the parlay builder. So much great stuff over here at oddshopper.com for your enjoyment. If you want to dabble in sports betting, if you're just getting started, we've got free videos for you to check out over at the Odd Shopper channel as well to get acquainted with the tools, with the content, how everything works. Myself, Greg Ehrenberg, Lofty, everybody breaking it down for you. So check that out. Under $15 right now to start off for your first week, or for any week that is, of Odd Shopper. $50 for the month. And then if you use promo code Lindy, Lindy, 20% off of that, making it $12 there for your first week, or $42 for your first month. You could use promo code Greg. You could use any of the promo codes of any of our names there. Get yourself 20% off of Odd Shopper right now. Check out that positive EV tool. If you have legalized sports betting in your state, phenomenal tool on a day in, day out basis to help you beat the books, market-based approach going across multiple books, finding the most advantageous lines, and helping you win money. That's the name of the game, my friends. So check out oddshopper.com. Great product, great opportunity for you to go get some cash in your pockets in addition to your DFS. We head to Minnesota, and lots to talk about with this one. Minnesota -4 taking on Houston. Only a 217.5 total, but it doesn't matter what your name is because, my dear God, the amount of this game that I have is just absurd. I don't love it. I think Jabbar, we'll get there in a second, but Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns pulling 25% ownership, 7,200. Couple of things. There's been more of a minutes downside at times because Kyle Anderson, you got to make way for Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert. There's some front court depth that they have there that hasn't always been there in the past. They're winning basketball games, and they're overall able to limit his minutes. So come playoff time, maybe they can just ramp all these dudes up and really go for gold for the first time since I've been a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, at least since the early 2000s, the Kevin Garnett, Latrell Sprewell, Sam Cassell days. But 7,200 Karl Anthony Towns from a DFS perspective today, I'm getting way more of him than anybody else currently on the slate. Help me out. Is this good chalk or not?
It's not bad chalk. It's not chalk that I have, but it's not bad chalk. 7,200 is a wild price tag to look at for Karl Anthony Towns right now. Just if you you wouldn't have expected that at the beginning of the season. That's
No.
for sure. But now he's like a tenth of a fantasy point behind someone like Julius Randle. Julius Randle has the price tag to be a tenth of a fantasy point ahead of him. I do see someone like Zion has a pretty natural pivot to the Towns ownership if you're playing a large field GPP, but Towns is definitely the better option. The fact that you have the MPE is helpful. He's at 1.15 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days. I went 33 minutes. In theory, you can see upwards of 36 in a competitive matchup. He hasn't been playing like crazy big minutes, which isn't surprising. They have enough flexibility there that they don't have to just put the pedal to the metal for him when they don't have to. I would not mind at all having a little bit more. I do think he grades out as one of the better values relative to salary that we have on today's slate. Let's actually, where do I have him?
I have him as the top forward value.
Yeah, exactly. That he looks really, really good. I don't know if he's 25% on an 11 gamer good, but he is sort of the best thing that exists. The problem is we just don't have anybody that really stands out. He is the best thing in his range, but like that entire range has no ownership coming into it. If I just highlight the guys above him, if I sort from salary top to bottom, there are 23 dudes priced at his price or above him before you get to someone that is more than 10% owned. That's Jared Allen, 8,300, 11%. There's just no one else around him getting any love. If you drop down below it, it's Mikal Bridges, it's Jalen Johnson at 6,900. The relationship between the ownership of Jalen Johnson and Karl-Anthony Towns is very interesting at this point. Towns definitely the better per minute dude, or the guy you're more confident in, but these guys aren't separated by as much. I would not, if you have a lot of Karl-Anthony Towns, I would not tell you to do anything different because this price tag is hard to ignore.
Yeah, it's the combination of like, again, they can go to Kyle Anderson in some of these spots and extend his minutes and obviously keep Karl-Anthony Towns and keep all of these guys at like reasonable minutes limits where other teams have to play their dudes 38, 36 a night here in some of these spots. Anthony Edwards really the only Minnesota Timberwolf, and rightfully so, that is just getting a crazy amount of minutes night in, night out here. So I guess for me, it's just embracing a competitive spot. They're only 4-point favorites here in Houston, and Houston's a good defensive team, no doubt about it, but missing Dylan Brooks, missing some of those pieces. Tari Eason, I think, out as well. Just saw that come across a couple hours ago, and now Karl-Anthony Towns, a 1.2, 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy. You put those rates in, he's going to project for over 40. He's underpriced, but yeah, the ownership is the big question, and we'll see as that fluctuates and what happens with Dallas. I keep bringing that up, but it matters so much because you could just get a ton of cheapies, and then yeah, I can kind of pay up for ceilings at all of the positions and not have to worry about it as much. But anything else from Minnesota, because he's kind of the main featured item there. There's some Jaden McDaniels if you need it, or if you really want it. I don't know why you would want either of those. Rudy Gobert, 7K. Anything else for you?
Well, you named one of the three guys that I have 10% or more of.
Oh, boy.
That would be Jaden McDaniels. I have 18%, $4,600 small forward. It's a position that's hard to fill. His minutes are certainly there. Is he a good per minute dude? Nope. 0.65 over the past 30 days. I gave him a little bit of a boost to 0.69, which is pretty nice. But I get it. But he's not the guy I have the most of. That is currently 24% ownership to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 3,300, shooting guard, small forward, 0.63 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days, somehow worse than Jaden McDaniels. But I like the position. I like the price. We have garbage value pulling ownership today. His minutes are firm. 19 this past game, 17 and 16 the previous two. But if you work your way back, 24, 23 is in there. Is he like all that shittier than DeLon Wright? Do we have any confidence there? If he's 7% owned, I think he's a sneaky enough option just because what are the alternatives? Like he's owned the same way Tristan Thompson is owned and he's center only. At least he brings the flexibility of positions to it. Is he fun to roster? No. Precious Achiuwa is 11% owned right now as the backup center for the Knicks. Is that better than some shitty Nickeil Alexander-Walker shares? I don't know. Feels like the answer is no to me. Unfortunately, I also have 10% Jordan McLaughlin.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yep.
You could
better point per minute,
McLaughlin, those. I will remember you. You could do that.
Yeah, you're going to remember me as being broke after this slate at this rate.
3,200 Jordan McLaughlin. I kind of love the tight pricing because you say stuff like this and it doesn't sound as outlandish as what it might have once upon a time, but still, even that one kind of caught me by surprise. He
He's
just
finally
re-entered
back
the
and
rotation.
yeah, he's finally back. He's in the rotation. He played a legitimate first half rotation and a legitimate second half rotation. Now he added a couple extra minutes. He got to 17, but he did play an extra 3 minutes of blowout run. So he really only played about 14 minutes. He wasn't even the legitimate direct backup to Mike Conley. That is more of Nickeil Alexander-Walker at this point. So really, this is mostly just a bet against Mike Conley. It is also just a simple bet of there's not a lot of value on this slate. He's 3,200. He's 5% owned and I have 10. I could just as easily have 5 by the time we get to lock, but I'm trying to find value in places that aren't just the places that are already getting it, the DeLon Wrights, the Precious Achuas of the world, because I have no confidence in those guys either.
Oh boy, I'm gonna take a look at that one a little bit more. I don't think that's as insane as what it sounded like when it first came out of your mouth. But to the Houston side we go. Alperen Şengün rightfully pulling the ownership. He's just on a different planet this season. Ime Udoka knows what he's doing. Love him as a coach, and this is just a continued progression for Alperen Şengün offensively here. 1.38 fantasy point per minute guy this season, pulling 12.3% ownership. You can get to as much of him as you want, and I'm not going to bat an eye, but the guy that I'm getting an egregious amount of is a 2% Jabari Smith. Tari Eason continuing to be out here, and it's just one of those things where I think it definitely helps in terms of some of those minutes. He only goes from being like 0.9 to 0.97 DraftKings points per minute player with Tari Eason off the floor, but like it's just the fact that Tari Eason isn't there. Like that's the thing that actually matters, is that I think it shores up some of the minutes. I don't think Jae'Sean Tate is somebody that they're going to want to have out there for 31 minutes, 35 minutes like they've had in 2 of the last 3, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's going to be the way that they roll with this long term. Give me just 35 minutes of Jabari Smith here at 2%, and I'll roll the dice on it. If you got to Fred VanVleet, don't completely hate it, but how do you view this Houston team on today's slate?
I don't have anybody over 10%, but I also do have 6 different Houston Rockets in a lineup. Okay. Green, Jalen Green, Tate, Smith, VanVleet, Cam Whitmore, and Alperen Şengün. Cam Whitmore is just playing the role of every other garbage 3K guy that I've mentioned so far. I don't feel great about it. That's for sure. The Jabari Smith piece is interesting because we look at it and it's immediate. I immediately want to just give him this giant chunk of minutes. He does soak them up from time to time. You certainly give him a bump when Tari Eason is out, and I give him those minutes and I look at his rates and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to a lot of Jabari Smith here at power forward. And then I go and I cross-reference what I do with the prop market. Now, I don't like to overreact to these things because the prop market is a very inefficient market. If you're sharp enough, you can move these lines on your own if you need to. Jabari Smith's points prop is 12.5, juiced to the under. And that is not what I get when I give him that sort of minutes bump. I end up way north of it. So the question is either, if I could, in a legal sports betting state, just bet the Jabari Smith overs and call it a day, that would be great. But I'm nervous that there's something going on in Houston that I don't see when we get Tari Eason out that somehow results in Jabari Smith being less important offensively for Houston.
Interesting.
I can't wrap my head around it. Because when I projected him, I had him at like 16 real points, and then I pull up the props, and it's just like, well, they're telling me it's going to be 12. Like, where's the disconnect?
A lot of this has to do with the matchup on the other side of this. I mean, Minnesota True. Number 1 in defensive rating, 109.9 possession per 100 possessions. I think that has more to do with the 12.5 number. He had been at 14.5. You can get these numbers from a lot of different spots, but he had been 14.5, 13.5 in recent games. And that was with Tari Eason in. So I think there's some fluctuation to it. I think this is just because, they're sitting with what's their implied total? 106.5. Like, you start chopping that up. If you're giving Alperen Şengün 21.5, his points prop 20.5 everywhere. Amin Thompson, he's starting to play some more minutes, I suppose. I'm just going straight down based on ownership rather than off of the prop market looking at this. But Fred VanVleet, that's another guy where it's like, that's a pretty low number for Fred VanVleet historically. So I think it has more to do with the matchup and Again, he's got to put the ball in the basket. You're going to need him to score more than fucking 12 points to win a GPP with him in your
Yeah.
lineups. But I think the ceiling is definitely still there. Fred VanVleet, 17 and a half for a points prop. That is exponentially shorter than what we've seen in recent games.
So I love the idea of getting to Jabari Smith in GPPs. Like he's the perfect guy to get to if that shooting can be hot here. And I still have him project, like I've got him at 14 real points. So I'm coming in north of that number. I would take an over on his points prop right now if I could. I'm not getting to any volume, but he's the type of guy where if I just opened this up and he was 3% owned and I had 12 to 15, I'd be stoked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you there. But I have, like I said, Green, Tate, Smith, VanVleet, Whitmore, and Şengün. They're all showing up, but it's really hard to get a lot given their implied total, given what we've seen on the rest of the slate, and the fact that you're facing the #1 defense in the league.
That is very fair. Again, I love those kind of discussions because I get to refine my process a little bit and figure out if there's something that I'm doing exponentially worse, by getting to 20% of a Jabari Smith on a day where he's projected for 2%. And I see it and I'm like, oh, it makes sense. Eason's out. I'm getting leverage. I feel good about it. But then the matchup's terrible in the prop market. As inefficient as it is, it's a good way of kind of getting a barometer on what you're setting the number at. So really good stuff there for sure. Oh my God, what am I looking at? Lindy and Josh together on a show? Look at the screen.
You guys are doing great.
Me with a mustache is definitely something.
That is...
Wow.
That is something.
I didn't know we were in a relationship, but now it is there. Look at that screen.
I'll have to switch the heads. I didn't think about the mustache.
With that, let's get to the most important game to talk about here on this entire slate, bar none. It is the Dallas Mavericks, the Portland Trail Blazers. There's obviously some things that can change, but what it is right now, Dallas 9-point favorites, 236.5 total. And friends, Luka Doncic is questionable. That is going to be a massive piece of news that the guys on Live Before Lock are going to be able to cover for you. But it's not just him. You have Derek Lively questionable. You have Grant Williams questionable. You have Marquise Morris, which wouldn't matter in a lot of occasions, but could end up mattering because he is questionable here as well. Lots waiting in the wings there on the Dallas side. But first, Portland, Duop Reith. We got him for a lot of ownership sitting up here at 21% 4K. We had talked about him a little bit when I was going over Isaiah Jackson at the identical tag, but how are you handling 21% Duop Reith on today's slate at 4K?
I have more than I did earlier today, that's for sure, but I only have 14%. I don't know what to do with the center rotation for Portland. The fact that Jabari Walker is doubtful complicates matters. We've seen them start Moses Brown regularly and play like 16 minutes and then just get the hell out of here. We just saw Ibu Baji get the start and basically do the exact same Moses Brown experience. I don't know how many minutes to give to Reith or Baji or Ish Wainwright, who I think is live to play some of those minutes at the 5 today as well. I'm getting 12% Baji at 5% ownership and 14% of Reith right now. I don't mind combining those two for whatever. Basically, we're projecting 26% ownership to the 2, and I have 26 ownership to the 2, but I have a little bit less Reith and a little bit more Baji. I trust none of it. Whoever's named the starter is going to make me feel a little bit better. I assume it's Baji, but I will be nervous about Reith because he can just as easily go out there and play 28 or 4. And I don't think Portland really cares all that much, but there is value to be had here. I'm going to hope that being on a little bit of Baji is the right way to do it, considering I saw that Petty played 55% of him 2 nights ago.
I was going to say, I saw Petty did that, and then also I saw that Duop Reith decided to punch a dude in the face, or whatever it was that he did. I can't remember. It's 2 minutes in, he ends up getting ejected from the game. Flagrant 2.
He picked up 3 fouls in 4 minutes in his first rotation, and then came back in the second quarter, picked up that flagrant 2, and got the gate.
And welcome to the rotation, Ish Wainwright, which, fun fact, Jordan Klein has fed him red vines sitting next to me at a Clippers game. That is a thing that happened.
Ish Wainwright on the Clippers?
He was on the Phoenix Suns.
And Jordan gave him red vines during the game?
So my father-in-law's tickets are directly behind the visiting team, like behind the bench there. And so when we go to games, we are, because I always like to sit next to the opposing team. If you go sit behind your home team, you see them every freaking time. It's the same thing. But when you have new guys, different, I like to see, the Nuggets when they come to town. I like seeing everybody and rotating through them. And Ish Wainwright, so there's like another layer of bench seats right behind where the main bench is, where like the second assistants and everybody sit. Ish Wainwright was rehabbing, and he was really interested in the girl that I brought with my wife. And he kept like flirting over and hanging out with us and like joking around. And so Jordan Klein just starts giving him red vines. And while he's sitting there during the game, just starts eating red vines directly from Jordan Klein as he's feeding him. It was probably one of my favorite NBA moments ever from Ish Wainwright.
Did they lady in the trampet?
I would have loved to see it. I would have loved to see it for sure.
Me too.
Oh, God. Jordan Klein. We got Mike Lawrence here, though. He's doing a phenomenal job. Smash the like button. We got 2 games. We'll make up some time here. Don't worry. Anything else from Portland for you?
I've got some Anthony Simons. He's 5% owned. Scoot's pulling 16% ownership. That feels a little heavy for what this is, but if this line drops a little bit, if these Dallas guys end up out, I could see it looking a little bit more interesting. He's been playing bigger minutes as of late. He is starting at the 0.94 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I don't have a lot, but he is the other guy that you can get to from the Blazers.
All righty. And then we have a lot of if-then statements to come up here as we break down Dallas. First off, let's do this with Luka Doncic in. Currently, Josh Green, 31.6% ownership. Luka projected as the highest fantasy scorer on the slate at 64. He is also the most expensive player on the slate at 11.6. And then Kyrie Irving sitting at 8,400. I would have no problem getting to those 3 individuals with Luka in. I think we start there. How do you feel about Green with Luka in and Kyrie with Luka in and Luka himself?
Over the field on all 3 of them. I have 14% of Luka. Happy to get there when I can. It's Luka Doncic against Portland. He should thrive. I'm 2xing Kyrie Irving, 8,400 point guard, shooting guard. I have 18. He's projected for 9. Works for me. And then I have 60% of Josh Green at 32% ownership. $4,200 small forward, power forward. I have named idiot after idiot after idiot that's in like 5 to 10% of my lineups today. Josh Green back in the starting lineup now with an MPE at a reasonable price tag. Live to play a shit ton of minutes right now, depending on how many of these Q tags end up out. I went 29 for the day. He is becoming a great play for me. 0.63 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days is gross. 0.7 as a true talent level is also still gross, but the minutes should be there, and that's more than we can say for a lot of our value plays today.
All right. Now we remove some guys. Luka Doncic, let's say that he ends up being out here in this spot. How much Jaden Hardy is too much Jaden Harvey?
4,400 point guard, shooting guard. We're talking about a guy that's probably in that like 0.9-ish fantasy point per minute range.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you go
1.2 this season with Luka off the floor.
Yeah, that's a lot of that probably has Kyrie off the floor as well. So
Dante Exum off the floor. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. A little blurrier there, but even if you just project him for 24 minutes at 0.9, that's 4.9x your salary. That's already as good as any other value play that's existing right now. That's no different than trying to get to like DeLon Wright, a little bit more expensive, but still. And then you also have the ability for him to play significantly more than 24 minutes. So whether you want to go to Jaden Hardy, whether you want to go to a 4K Seth Curry, who isn't a good per minute dude, but could conceivably play a couple extra minutes, that's there. I think you start getting a ton of Jaden Hardy, though.
Dwight Powell, interesting if there's going to be no Derek Lively.
Well, since we already know that Rashawn Holmes is out,
yes,
and it's possible that we get Grant Williams out, or Markieff Morris,
yes,
I think you just run out of bodies, and then $4,300 Dwight Powell starts looking quite a bit better. I'd assume he starts. You probably give him 20 minutes in that start, something in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to get away from that. Call it like 0.9 fantasy points per minute for Dwight Powell. They don't have enough they don't have enough dudes. Like all of their centers are hurt.
Anything else from this game? Because again, there's going to be a lot of news to come. Hopefully it comes out for you guys during Live Before Lock. If not, I know Greg Ehrenberg's been hanging out in that Discord. He will answer all of your questions. Really good stuff. But anything else, this is a pretty important basketball game.
3 starts this year, by the way, for Dwight Powell, 65 total minutes, so about 21 minutes a start. Okay. You'll feel completely fine getting to him if he ends up being that guy and could play more at that point. I mean, if we're losing one of Irving or Doncic, obviously 6K shooting guard, small forward, Tim Hardaway is going to get a little bit of a bump and start to look better than the 1% ownership he's getting right now. I don't want to sleep on him because he does get a pretty big benefit if one of these guys go away.
All right, we head to Orlando, Denver, as you guys all smash the button. Of course, 2 games to go. We'll fly through it. This one, highest owned player, Paolo Banchero there, 6.5%, 222.5 total here in Denver. Jokic coming off of the ridiculous shot. That fourth quarter was absolute nuclear goodness. I enjoyed everything about it there, especially Steph Curry chewing on his mouthpiece and walking to the opposite end of the floor there once he knocked down that shot in the face. But anyway, Orlando, Denver, I don't have a whole lot to talk about. If you get to Banchero, if you get to Nikola Jokic, sweet. Cole Anthony, we're still just kind of waiting for it. Can we get some of those performances back? We shall see. But anything from this game for you?
You would have thought that this would open up a lot with no Franz Wagner today and no Joe Ingles or Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris, Fultz, potentially no Wendell Carter Jr. It doesn't. I have 4% of Banchero. Any Banchero you want to get to, by all means, please do that. He now gets to do whatever he wants out there. Cole Anthony, I do have 8% of. He's 3% owned. I think he just has to have the ball a little bit more. They're going to need a little bit more offense, a little bit more creation. I have nothing else here. No Goga, no Anthony Black, Caleb Houston, Chumo Kiki, Jalen Suggs. I don't have any of these dudes. This is a terrible spot. Denver, top 10 defense, 28th in pace. We're not getting the value prices we thought we would. Caleb Houston's already 4,800. Chumo Kiki is 4,500. We're not creating any value here, and that's really where the problem lies. If Wendell Carter Jr. ends up out, I think you could fire up some Goga at that point. Otherwise, a situation you thought would be really good isn't.
Last game of the night. This is one I know you have some interest in from talking pre-show. Miami taking on Phoenix. Miami plus 3.5. Nikola Jovic. So we talked about Jokic. He's not getting any ownership, and he's the best player in the NBA. Nikola Jovic is neither of those things, but he is 4,400 with power forward center eligibility, pulling 13.4% ownership. Josh, I know you're over the field. Tell the people why.
I have 84%.
I didn't hear that number.
I don't know why his ownership isn't any higher. Like, what? I need somebody to explain to me what I'm missing, because I think everybody else is dumb. Like, they just played a game with the exact same scenario. No Jimmy Butler, no Haywood Highsmith, no Caleb Martin. Nikola Jovic started. He played a first quarter rotation of 10 minutes. He played a second quarter rotation of 8.5 minutes. That's 19 minutes in the first half. He played another rotation in the third quarter of 8.5 minutes. That's 20. He played 28 minutes in 3 quarters and then just didn't have to go back out there because the bench unit in the fourth quarter finished off the rest of the blowout of the Lakers. I went 26 minutes. That's 2 less than he played. Even if I went to 24, that's significantly less than he played. He's been like a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy in limited time. I'm projecting him at 0.93 for today. He's in everything that I'm basically doing. I don't know why we would assume he's not starting. The only difference that I saw between the most recent game and the game before that, you saw big minutes out of Jamal Cain 2 games ago. That game didn't have Josh Richardson. If Richardson is back, I think he's ahead of Cain. So I think we're just getting Jovic. Even if you think he's just playing 3 quarters, the minimal worst case scenario, he gets a 6-minute rotation, a 6-minute rotation, a 6-minute rotation. They close with Kevin Love. Still, even in 18 minutes, think about the value plays that we've talked about that are getting the same ownership as him right now. I don't understand this in any way. To me, the clear best value play you can get to.
Love it. I'm over the field. I was going to be over the field, and now I'm going to probably be over the field. Timely news. Kevin Durant ruled out as we head to Phoenix here. Round out our show for us. Kevin Durant officially out. What are your first initial reactions before we turn it over to Live Before Lock?
I had 4% of Bradley Beal, 2 shares of Booker, and 2 shares of Nurk before this. I think you can probably now grab a little bit of Keita Bates-Diop at 3,400, small forward, power forward. Bull certainly can maintain his spot in the lineup. He's 3,800 power forward center. I don't think it matters all that much for Booker and Beal, although $9,200 Booker certainly improves, but you're going to be competing with Donovan Mitchell at that point. I think you're probably looking at a little bit more value for Phoenix, but it's not the best matchup in the world. Miami's defense solid enough. Both of these teams in the bottom 10 in pace.
That was beautiful. Well, we stuck the landing somehow. Got a little rush there at the end there. Tried to space it out as much as possible. Talked a lot about the Dallas-Portland spot. And the guys on Live Before Lock will have it covered for you. But Josh, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Play Nikola Jovic if you like money. If you don't.
Go follow him at Josh Engleman over on Twitter/X. My guy, thank you to Mike Lawrence here as well. Nikola Jovic, that's all I got for you. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist. We'll have updated stuff here for you on Stochastic Update for all of the injury news in real time. Sign up for that down below at the link. Let's get the heck up out of here. Turn it over to Live Before Lock.
Man, Christmas might be over, but Santa definitely came around to the Stochastic family this week. It's Stochastic Hall of Fame, baby. And all you got to do to get involved, get that sweet free month of any Stochastic package you want, $200 value, is download the Stochastic profile picture. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter what the entry is. And tweet your wins to us at Stochastic HOF. And you're in, baby. Just like everyone we're about to talk about, some huge winners coming out of the holidays. And we kick it off with the first one on the list, Freddie P. Beautiful night for us on Sunday. Love everything about you guys. Much respect. Hey, thanks, Freddie. $15,000 up top for Freddie. And then Danielson, Merry Christmas. See what I mean? Santa came around. Got third out of 185,000 in the FanDuel quarter GPP. A couple days after trying out your Sims Max tool for the week with the holiday promo. First time using any sim, and he takes down third place for $500. Good stuff, man. And then our own Tom Kennedy, CEO, Stochastic, putting his money where his mouth is. Closest brush with a milli, rarely dabble in high stakes, but a couple things changed. Talks about the Sims tool, which won him $150,000. And then a couple days before that, Sims tool, using default settings, factory settings, chopped first place for almost $24,000. So shout out to Tom, putting up big numbers over the last week. And Sean Geezy, would this be a Hall of Fame segment without Sean? Took down the $4.20 max on DK, and then he follows it up with second and third in the $2 mini max. The guy's on the really insane heater, rocking the tools over with us at Stochastic. Shout out to Sean, as always, in the Hall of Fame. Kevin Cutler, after splitting first Thursday, I'll take another split tonight on the 40K Showdown. Hope to keep things rolling. It's all clicking right now. Yeah, man, almost $900 for Kevin. And Mo Terps with the $200 win, right? Said not all huge wins or fields, but the tools work. Trust them. Then Mo Terps slaying on Owner's Box. There's like 5 screenshots here from Mo just destroying the game over at Owner's Box. Alexis Sierra, shout out to Emax, ship my money and player Q DFS on the Saturday slate. Second win of the year. Team Stochastic, thanks for the great shows every day. That's a $1,000 win. And Justin Tope, been on a heater himself, $750 win here. Projections are on point as they've been all season. Yeah, Justin had another one too in there, just been on an absolute 10-day heater. And Matisse, I should have took down the 100K Sunday NFL rush. 2 incompletions from Dortz, just needed 1 catch. Anyway, hope this inducts me into the Hall of Fame. Yes, it does, sir. $5,000, third place. Congrats, brother. And then X Knight 360 finally took down an NBA Showdown this season using the NBA Sims tool. It works. What an absolutely amazing game between the Warriors and Celtics. Thanks to the team for your insights, tools, and support. How about Elon Musk's barber? Wow, that's interesting. Thanks to the incredible squad. It's Stochastic. Nailed my first place takedown last night. Shout out to Elon Musk's barber for that one. And Malachor back in the Hall of Fame streets. $375 win there. Thanking the boys. With Michael Campbell up next, patting himself on the back. Second in the $4 mini max, 20 max. Good call by me to global swap from Horford to Kuminga because I didn't want first or an extra 5K to lose in the next few months. Oh, I get it. That's not a pat on the back. That is self-deprecating humor there. Sorry, Michael, but congratulations. Aaron Brown, $3,000 in the 4-point play. Eric Traub crushed. Thanks for the live shows and advice. This is yesterday on Thursday Night Football. I know it doesn't count for the free months, has too many ties in my profile picture.
everybody. It is almost the weekend, but first, a DFS main slate breakdown here. Myself and Matt Belman, because it's a Friday night. We're about to break down FanDuel, DraftKings, and answering any questions you guys have. Any questions at all, if you're in our Discord, if you're a member of Stochastic, one of the benefits is you get access to our Discord. At me over the course of the show, and also I'm going to be hanging in there all night tonight, all day, all night in the Discord. So if you guys want to get more questions from me or ask me more questions, know how some of the late news is going to impact the slates, you can ask me in Discord even after the show. If you want to sign up for any package at Stochastic, use one of the links we have below. Lineup Generator, one of the Sims packages. Got links for all that below. We're also sponsored by Better here tonight. But most importantly, Matt, Happy New Year. I haven't seen you since New Year's, if I'm not mistaken. And how's it going? How's everything doing with you?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here with you. Yeah, it's been a long week. I feel like happy to be home. Florida's nice. The weather is obviously better than it is here. It wasn't even really nice weather, but better than here. It is frigid here. I don't know about where you are. It is really, really cold here. But I'm happy to be home. Happy to be here. This is like a really nice Friday night. Talking some DFS, playing some DFS. Like, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, we've got 32 degrees right now. It's supposed to be 22 shortly. I just checked right here. For people asking, I saw somebody in chat, I believe it was Peter Wasaki, said he doesn't like my shirt. So it is an Ohio State shirt. I actually think it's quite cool. It is an Ohio State shirt that also has a Ninja Turtle on it. I went to Elon, which does not have any college athletics program, so to speak of, that's with any kind of significance. My sister is currently at Ohio State, and she gets me some Ohio State shirts and whatnot, so hence the Ohio State shirt. But I like the Ninja Turtles, so I actually like the shirt more for the Ninja Turtles than anything else. My sister likes it for Ohio State, so a little bit of something for everybody, and it makes her excited when I wear it on shows. So Ninja Turtles, I mean, how can you go wrong? Ninja Turtles, the red one, I believe that's Raphael. We got a super chat already in here. Matt, this is from Ace of Spade. He wants to know the best options for DK tiers. So let me pull up the tiers lineups that I built out here for Ace of Spade. And when we look at this, if there's anything that's pertinent to the main slates, we can look at this as well. For tonight, are you playing on DraftKings, FanDuel, both tonight, Matt?
I'm just playing two lineups on DraftKings. Too difficult with the show. Like to, pay attention to what I'm doing on the show, obviously. But then also I want to get good lineups in. So I just think I like to do 1 to 3, especially when I'm on the show.
Yeah, so for me, I am playing more on FanDuel tonight. I played single entry stuff on DK and then played 150 over on FanDuel, so people know where I have most of my action tonight. But as always, when I do the show, I get lineups built out for FanDuel and DraftKings, so any questions you guys have, I'm always equipped to answer for both. Tier 1, which I also think kind of relates to an interesting question about the slate overall here, Matt, where we have Luka, we have Joel Embiid, Jokic, SGA, all in tier 1. My preference here is Joel Embiid, but if you have the ability to spend up for any one single player on the slate, who is it that you would be going to? Because that does correlate with the tier 1 aspect of this.
I think it's just got to be Embiid. I mean, he has now turned into the best fantasy basketball player on the planet. Like, it was Giannis for a while, then it was Jokic, now it's Embiid. Giannis got hurt by having Dame now in the mix. Jokic's team is just more filled out than Embiid's. Embiid's on another level right now. So he's the guy, no price considered. I think he's the guy. I think you could make a case for Luka if he plays there. It's one of those two for sure, but give me Embiid.
Yeah, same for me. Embiid for me in tier 1. We've also got Luka, who's currently questionable to play. He's in tier 1. So Joel Embiid, that is the way I'm going to be going. Tier 2, pretty easy. Tyrese Halliburton. Tier 3, that is Julius Randle. Tier 4, that is Şengün, another one that I feel pretty confident in. Tier 5, another one I feel kind of... So there's two guys I like here. Jared Allen, Kyrie Irving. The answer for right now is Jared Allen. If Luka's out, the answer has to be Kyrie Irving. We'll talk more about the Luka situation in a second here, Matt, because the last time that Luka was out and Kyrie played, it's been a minute since Kyrie played. What ended up happening, Kyrie was out for a while. He's back now, but it's been a minute since Luka was out and Kyrie played is what I meant to say. The last time we saw this scenario, Kyrie kind of shit the bed, and I wonder if that's going to be in the back of people's minds. And I think that was also a slate that you and I were doing a show together for. I think that was like 4 Fridays ago or something like that. But anyway, I like Jared Allen in tier 5, Kyrie Irving. If we do see Luka out, what are you going to be doing with Kyrie if Luka doesn't play? How high of a priority is he going to be for you?
Pretty high. I mean, last game is what it is. Mm-hmm. Good spot against Portland. The last spot, and I can't remember who was in or out, but when I really liked the fate of Dallas was when they were playing Houston in Houston. This is not that. This is Portland at home. So I like a bunch of the Dallas guys if Luka's out, with Kyrie being the highest priority. Kyrie is in play if Luka's in. A tournament play, nothing more, but still in play. If Luka's out, he becomes, one of the best value point per dollar plays on the slate at 8,300, which I know people don't really like thinking in that concept, but it's true.
And another thing to add to this as well is, presumably this is news that we are not going to be getting until later, right? This is a game that locks at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. This is a slate with a lot of earlier locking games. So in the event that Luka is ruled out late, a couple of things are going to come into play. Number one, I'm not sure how many people are going to be swapping to him, but then another aspect to consider as well is how many people are going to look at, hey, Kyrie was like 60% on the last time Luka was out and Kyrie played, he shit the bed. And I think that might kind of deter some people. Now, with that in mind, I don't think Kyrie was totally healthy for that game. Kyrie ended up sitting out the subsequent game. He ended up getting hurt then a few games after that. But I do think that he was dealing with an injury that really did impact him in that one particular game. Not too concerned about it. I like Kyrie quite a bit today if Luka doesn't play. And then tier 6, that is going to be Kristaps Porzingis for me without Horford resting. Probably would have been Porzingis anyway, but it's a nice little benefit to him that there's going to be no Al Horford for tonight. Next question here is from Walter Colazzo. Walter says he banked the 25 cent and came third in the 5 cent yesterday. Congrats, Walter. And one thing that is really nice that I like to see is not just when people win, Matt, like the big 6-figure wins or take down a big tournament, but also in some of the lower stakes players also, like when they win the 25 cent, the 5 cent, because you'll often see people say like, oh, I don't have a big bankroll. I can't go
That's
play,
how you get it.
a bench line. You can though. You can. And then also if you're using the different data and tools at the site, we have different settings in the sim tool. You could actually change it to gear your lineups more towards lower stakes contests where some of those chalky plays, they aren't quite as popular. So if you guys are building lineups in the contest generated in our simulation tool, you can move the slider in the tournament settings to the left and set it to low stakes. And that is going to give you lineups that would otherwise be a little bit chalkier, but the players generally end up being underrepresented in some of those lower dollar fields. But anyway, Walter's question here, he's asking us for DraftKings, Bridges or Cat today? That is going to be Karl Anthony Towns for me. How about for you, Bridges or Cat?
It's Cat for me, but they're really similar plays. Like they're both price plays based on their history and what their price tags normally are. So I feel better about Cat, but Bridges is a similar play in my mind. They're both just too cheap for what they usually do, and that's why they're getting ownership. An interesting point, just to going back to the Luka thing that I didn't think about until you mentioned that there were a bunch of early games. I think this is where the trickle-down effect of not having the late games really comes into play, because if we have like Sacramento and Toronto, which is an appealing game, like De'Aaron Fox quickly, it'd be easier to plan the Dallas news, but we don't have that. So now this 8:30 game becomes a late game. It's just interesting. Like, I don't not like it. I don't like it. I don't care. It's just interesting.
I think it's funny that one of the main reasons that the sites are kind of trying to do away with some of the late games is to make so that late swap is like less pressing and like less needed for these slates to be a expected profitable player. But for this particular slate, it actually comes more into play because now the last game on the slate where people have to kind of plan for is Luka being questionable. And obviously Luka matters a good amount. So by the way, Walter, the answer to me is Cat no matter what. But I am a little curious, when you said M Bridges, did you mean Mikal or Miles Bridges? It's Cat for me either way. I assume you meant Miles Bridges because he's closer in price to Cat.
You mean Mikal?
No, Miles is 79, Mikal is 71.
But they're both, Cat is 72 on DK.
Either way, though, whichever one it is, we have Cat projected better than both of them.
I wasn't even thinking about Miles Bridges, to be honest, because I thought Mikal and Cat are like the same price, unless I'm completely off.
Yeah, so here's what I was thinking of. Mikal and Miles are the same position, and then Cat and Mikal are similar price.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't know either.
But either way, whichever Bridges you're talking about, the answer is Karl Anthony Towns for me. So hopefully that helps you out there, Walter. Next question is from Sean. Wants to know, can we review the best value per position on DK? Absolutely. So given the information that we have right now, who would you consider the best values at each position? You could take this to mean whatever you want, Matt. Do you want it to be points per dollar, cheap player, whatever it is? Sean's question, point guard, who would you consider to be the best value at point guard on DK?
I think if Luka's out, it is Kyrie. You could probably put Jaden Hardy in that mix. With Luka in, I think I go to a guy like DeLon Wright. I don't love it, but there aren't that many guys under 4K that are like even in play. So I think DeLon Wright. I mean, you could make a case for like Halliburton because he's still cheap enough, but I think DeLon Wright, like it's funny from a value perspective in our tools, Halliburton grades out as the top like points per dollar play on the slate. So I'm going to go with Halliburton.
And to your point also about Halliburton, like, yeah, he rates out as the best points per dollar play at point guard in our projections. And then if you look at DeLon Wright, who's expected to be popular today, north of 20% owned on DK, he's only $3,600. He does project as the best points per dollar play of anybody who's sub 5K, but that makes him like the 20th best point guard in our projections from points per dollar standpoint.
Yeah, really good call there.
So I'll agree with you on DeLon Wright, but like the real answer is if you're looking to go cheap at point guard, the options are not all that great today. Shooting guard, who do you view as the best value at shooting guard per Sean's question?
Honestly, I'm going to go the same route we just went and say Donovan Mitchell. He's right behind Halliburton, and there aren't any other shooting guards that are even close. So give me Donovan Mitchell, knowing that it could be Kyrie Irving if Luka doesn't play. How about you?
I agree with you. I think shooting guard's got to be Donovan Mitchell. We're going to have the same answer at small forward, by the way, and I love it. Josh Green is expected to be relatively popular tonight. He's only $4,200. He projects well as is. Then if you take Luke out of the equation, he would project even better. So to me, this is one that already a feasible option who would look even better in Josh Green if Luka is out. So Josh Green at small forward, I think it's like such, if you look at our data and tools, I think it's kind of such an obvious selection that I see you're going to go the same, but maybe it'll surprise me and go elsewhere.
It's Josh Green for me, but here's where I think you could go Mikal Bridges also. Because small forward sucks, those two guys are close in our value projection. So I'm going to give it to Josh Green because he's so much cheaper and he gets the big boost if Luka's out. But that's where I would have like a Mikal Bridges like creeping in.
We got some news here. Nikola Vucevic is going to play today, but he's only going to be playing 23 to 25 minutes. He's going to be limited to, so not somebody you want to be rostering tonight. And now at power forward, I'm going to go with Nikola Jovic. Jovic started last game for the Miami Heat. He ended up playing 28 minutes. His playing time has been extremely odd as of late, but we could break it down right here. 4 games ago, Jovic plays a bigger part in the rotation, ends up getting 20 minutes. They move him into the starting lineup the next game. And what ends up happening, Matt, very quick foul trouble and has to come off the court. So he ends up playing only 10 minutes, but he picked up 5 personal fouls in 10 minutes. So it's like, all right, we don't know what his minutes would have looked like otherwise. Game after, he comes out of the starting lineup and isn't in the rotation. He only plays garbage time, which also makes it hard to know what to make of Jovic's minutes. But then he comes back into the starting lineup last game against the Lakers, plays 28 minutes, has his best game of the season. We'll see what the starting lineup ends up looking like for the Heat. I tend to think Jovic starts. He played well last game. So Jovic, as long as he starts, he's my favorite value at power forward. How about for yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely Jovic for me, like pretty clearly. And if not him, it's Towns.
And then at center, I'm going to go with Karl-Anthony Towns. If you want to go cheaper, though, I mean, Duop Reith is in line for more playing time as well in the absence of DeAndre Ayton here. So Karl-Anthony Towns, but if it needs to be somebody cheap, Duop Reith. How about yourself?
I'm going to go Reith just because, like, you can't play all the, even though, like, Mitchell and Halliburton and Embiid all stand out as top points per dollar, you can't play them all. So we got to get something cheap. So I'll go Reith here, who stands out as probably the best. Actually, is definitely the best under 5K value on the entire slate by a good amount.
If you guys haven't done it yet, do Matt and I a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to make yourself some cash, some nice money to line your pockets, go ahead and sign up at Better and take advantage of our link that we have below. Because when you sign up at Better, using the link we have, you are getting up to a $500 bonus on your first deposit over at Better. So great way to build your bankroll there. Deposit $500, they give you $500. Some extra spending money there over at Better. So go check it out, guys. If you or anybody know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. And now we've got a question here from Jade Truong. And Jade is asking us best FanDuel single entry value plays. Yeah, so I'll pull up my FanDuel lineups here. And, you know, once again, I think we have to kind of make some assumptions on what we're going to consider value to be. Like, I think Herb Jones is a really good option at $5,300 on FanDuel. So hence, like, are we considering 5,300 value or not? I'm going to say yes. So the players I'm getting the most exposure to that are on the cheaper end over on FanDuel are Herb Jones, Jay Sean Tate, who's taken on a bigger role for Houston as of late, and Tari Eason is out. So Herb Jones, Jay Sean Tate, and let's see if there's anybody who's like really cheap beyond that. Not that I get a real meaningful amount of exposure to. So Jay Sean Tate and Herb Jones, those are going to be my two answers for value over on FanDuel for you, Jade. Now let's go into the Discord, Matt, and see what it is that we're getting as far as questions go in the Discord channel. This first one is from Kapanikella. He wants to know, who's somebody we like in a single entry? What's a single entry play on DK that you and I like a good amount, Matt? Let me go back to the DraftKings lineups I've built, and for yourself, single entry option. Who do you like for single entry, and however you want to take that to mean?
So you can obviously take that a lot of ways. I'm going to go with an off the board guy. Give me Cole Anthony. Risky for sure. But when I first looked at the slate, he stood out to me with no Fultz and no Franz Wagner. He's coming in second in leverage on the entire slate behind only Reith. I love that type of play for single entry. He's too expensive for his median outcome, but he definitely has upside at 6,500. So give me Cole Anthony. How about you?
Yeah, give me a Duop Reith who projects quite well for us. And something else I like about getting to Reith is they are playing against the Mavericks tonight, right? So the more Blazers exposure we have, Matt, the easier it's going to be for us to make any kind of pivots in the event that Luka is ruled out. So like getting to Josh Green in that game, like getting to Duop Reith. If other value opens up, cool, we could pivot off of some of it and create some other options to get to in the event that Luka doesn't end up playing, depending on what that Maverick starting lineup looks like. So Duop Reith for me here in single entry. Then we got a question from James Magruder, wants to know the best plays at each position for DK. And yeah, I will start at point guard. By the way, pretty smooth sailing so far. I think this is the deepest we've gone into a show the entire year without any kind of like crazy news that's broken in the middle. We've made it an entire 28 minutes, which is unheard of for NBA, which also is convenient because people ask the questions and I've already got lineups built out in front of me. I'm not like constantly rebuilding lineups every 5 minutes to figure out who it is that I like the most based on the most recent news. But anyway, James Magruder, let's go back and forth here, Matt. Starting at point guard, my favorite point guard is Donovan Mitchell tonight.
My favorite point guard is Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay. Shooting guard. I'm actually going to make a change here because shooting guard really sucks today, and Donovan Mitchell's my answer at shooting guard. So I'm going to agree with you and go Tyrese Halliburton at point guard because I want to plug Mitchell in at shooting guard because I don't have north of 20% of any other player with shooting guard eligibility. If I have to do an honorable mention here, I would go Kyrie Irving. He's somebody who I currently get to in 12% of lineups and would look significantly better in the event that Luka is ruled out here. So how about yourself at shooting guard? How are you going to answer this one?
At shooting guard, I'm going to go with the guy I just talked about. Give me Cole Anthony.
Okay. Small forward for me. I have to go Josh Green here.
I'm going to go Bridges here.
Okay. Power forward. I'll go with Cat.
Power forward, I'll go with Cat/Jovic. Both of them.
Okay. And then Reith for me at center.
Same.
All right. And then the next question here is from Corey Randall. Says, just for some value, is Sam Merrill in play today? Oh, boy. Sam Merrill. I tilt my balls off about Sam Merrill all the time, Matt, because the other day, I'm getting to like 70% of Sam Merrill. And I'm looking around, it's like, I don't want to play this much of Sam Merrill. Then other value opens up and I find ways to get off Sam Merrill and get to other guys. And then what happens? The first half he checks in 5 minutes, he's already got 15 fantasy points. And it's like, great. He already got there in like the first 5 minutes. Then the game's a blowout. I had a bunch of exposure to Donovan Mitchell that game. Now Donovan Mitchell, who scored 41.5 fantasy points halfway through the third quarter. He checks out of the game, doesn't come back. Sam Merrill plays the entire fourth quarter in garbage time, just ends up crushing. As for tonight, I am not getting to Sam Merrill any kind of real meaningful amount. So once again, I'm playing 150 lineups on FanDuel, just one on DK today, but I did build out a set of 150 DK lineups. So it's like if I was playing 150, this is what my exposures would be. And I have 8% of Sam Merrill on DK in those lineups. In the lineups I have on FanDuel, I have Sam Merrill in, let's see, where is Sam Merrill in my FanDuel lineups? Yeah, I don't have Sam Merrill at all on FanDuel. So I have none of them on FanDuel. And if I was playing 150 on DK, I'd have 8% of them. Is Sam Merrill somebody you're getting to in your few lineups?
No, but he's definitely in play. Like if you need a spend down option, just because we don't have a ton of good value. It's still a really good spot against Washington, but that said, I'm not personally playing him. No.
All right, here we go. We've got our dumb NBA news that has come in for no reason. Patrick Williams now questionable tonight. Alex Caruso now questionable tonight. These guys were both probable as of a couple of minutes ago. So what does that mean for now? Not all that much, but this is something to keep our eye on. If Alex Caruso is to be ruled out, like Dosunmu walks into more minutes. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Bulls. But as of right now, when does that game lock? Chicago. That is an 8 p.m. Eastern time lock. So not right at lock, but an hour afterwards. So I don't think we're going to be getting that news before the slate starts. But take note, fellas. Alex Caruso, Patrick Williams, both questionable to play now tonight. Corey Shea wants to know, ooh, interesting. I like this. I like this question quite a bit. I wanted to delay a little bit so you could finish sneezing. You good to go now?
Yeah, I'm good to go. And
right.
I didn't want to stop my camera because I had a problem with that on my earlier show. So sorry.
Yeah, no problems, but just want to make sure you got your sneeze out there. But Corey Shea is asking us a very interesting value question, Matt. Pick two: Jovic, Reith, and Josh Green.
That's easy for me. Like, I know it's really tough for you, but I got Reith and Jovic like way ahead of Josh Green. We know who Josh Green is. Like, I get it. It's a good spot. He's cheap, but I just find it highly unlikely that he puts up a score that you need to win tournaments. Now, that being said, Sam Merrill and Chetty Osman have been the guys to kill me the past 2 nights by not playing them. So what the hell do I know? But if Reith gets the minutes and Jovic, I just think is a better fan, is just a better, points per minute type of guy. So I'm going to say those two, but I don't think you're wrong to think otherwise,
I'm going to go Reith and Josh Green, and I view all three of these guys to be fairly similarly. In our projection, if I'm just going based on our projections, the answer is Jovic and Reith. The reason I'm going to go with Josh Green over Jovic is strictly due to the injury reports and what we have going on there. So, well, I mean, not even though, because we've also got the later starting time for Jovic. So if something was to change, all right, I'm going to agree with you. All right, I'm going to go with Jovic and Reith because if Luka's ruled out, it's easy to swap to Josh Green.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. Like, that's the nice thing about Miami guys. Go ahead. Sorry.
Jovic and Reith, if Josh Green ends up benefiting from Luka being out, then I would say swap to Reith and Josh Green. Would it be Josh Green for if Doncic was out?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be Josh Green over Jovic with Reith standing as the top guy still.
All right, there we go. So we've arrived to a commonplace in the middle ground here. Now let's see what else we have as far as questions go in the Discord. We've got Einsteinium wants to know, is it reasonable to boost Kyrie to give yourself more late swap flexibility? 100%. And I think these are the ways that, because a lot of people look at the Sims, which is an incredibly useful tool. It's helped me make a lot of money this year, but it's still a tool. It's not like this is the answers to the test, right? I don't know about how you took tests in high school, Matt, but from time to time, I would go and steal the Scantron answers from the Spanish teacher, Senora Spencer. I would go into her room during lunch break when she wasn't looking. I'd take the test off the desk. I'd get all the answers to the test before I even took it. And then you just got the Scantron with all the answers already there for you.
I have a fefeeling there was more going in that office with Senora Spencer than you're speaking on right now.
She was 70 years old and an insane person. So you are incorrect. She used to listen to this. We had to stretch and do yoga the first 15 minutes of every Spanish class to get ready to speak Spanish. She was an insane person. For whatever reason, and I think most people could relate to this, in like middle school, high school, for whatever reason, the most insane teachers I always had, they were always Spanish teachers. And that was at every single grade level. Every Spanish teacher I had was just batshit insane. Anyway, The Sims, right? Very, very useful tool, but still a tool. It's not the Scantron answer where you click a couple buttons and it guarantees you profit. There are ways that you should be manipulating it manually to give yourself more of an edge, and trying to prepare yourself for injury situations is the way to go and do that. So Einsteinium, I think that you are giving yourself, even in the event that Luka does end up playing and you don't benefit from Kyrie being out, just the chance that Luka doesn't play, I think is enough that we should be prioritizing Kyrie Irving and up boosting him in the Sims tool to get to more of them. So we're more prepared for that situation should Luka be ruled out later. So absolutely, go ahead and do that. I think it's a really, really sharp way to go ahead and play this slate. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for the Sims tool or any other of the tools we have at Stokastic, we have links for those below. Boyle 5000 wants to know, how does no Franz impact Magic Guard usage? He says that our tools are high on Anthony, but he likes getting more to Suggs. How about for yourself, Matt? And I think you've kind of already tipped your hand, and I'm on the same page as you.
I like Cole Anthony a lot here. So give me Cole. I think he's the one that gets the big boost. Suggs is who he is. I think he's also in play, but I think Cole Anthony is the one that gets the boost.
Yeah. And another thing too is that for a lot of the season, you know, like Cole Anthony has been the higher upside guy. He's been very inconsistent. I know Suggs has had like some better games as of late, and Suggs is a fantastic real life player. If you go to EPM,
yeah,
and you look at the dunks and threes, and you look at the EPM stats there. I mean, Suggs has been one of the more underrated players in the league, but it hasn't always translated to the most fantasy upside. We're seeing some really big games from Cole Anthony. So in terms of usage, I think Cole Anthony is more of a ceiling than Jalen Suggs has. So give me Cole Anthony there, Boyle. Now we've got Einsteinium asking us, is Booker a reasonable pivot off of Mitchell with KD out? Yes. So KD unlikely to play today. He's not officially been ruled out, but it appears that he is unlikely to play. With that being the case, yeah, I don't mind getting to Booker. And in some shares, like overall over the course of 150 lineups, I'd rather have more exposure to Donovan Mitchell, but that doesn't mean that Devin Booker isn't somebody who's worth rostering. Mr. Coolcam is asking us favorite plays at each position for FanDuel. So I'll do this for FanDuel because you just had lineups for DK there, Matt. But for FanDuel, these are the players I have the most of at each position. So Mr. Coolcam, point guard, I have Tyrese Maxey. Shooting guard, Herbert Jones. Small forward, also Herbert Jones, but Jalen Johnson next. Power forward, Jalen Johnson. So Jayshawn Tate at power forward. And then center, where, I mean, I'm really spread out amongst a bunch of guys at center on FanDuel, but Jared Allen, who, how good has Jared Allen been lately, Matt? In the absence of Darius Garland, in the absence of Evan Mobley, Jared Allen having his minutes restriction lifted, he's been doing everything for this team. The assist rate is up. The usage rate is up. The rebound rate is up. The minutes are up. So everything's looked good across the board for Jared Allen. And I think that is somebody who still makes sense for today on FanDuel. So Mr. Coolcam, those are my favorite options at each position over for FanDuel. And then we also got Hayes Stables asking us who are the must-have FanDuel cash options. So let's see, who would I consider must-have for FanDuel cash? Jalen Johnson, Jayshawn Tate, Herb Jones, Tyrese Maxey, a lot of the guys that I just mentioned, but I do think those are the answers as well. Here we've got the Black Mamba 8724 wants to know thoughts on Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado, is he somebody you like getting to tonight, Matt?
I don't think he's like a bad play ever, because he's cheap and he does a lot when he's on the court, but certainly not someone I'm like looking to build around here. Yeah, I don't feel really a type of way about him. How about you?
I didn't get to him at all. So that is a no-go for me on Jose Alvarado. That is a no.
I was just trying to be nice. I'm not getting to him either.
I mean, I can only say what's in my lineups. If somebody says they want to play somebody, he's not in my lineups, because it goes both ways, right? Because I know people really frequently look up my lineups, and in the same way, I don't want people to see me say that like, oh,
for sure,
I don't like a guy and then he's in my lineups. I also don't want to tell people I like a guy and then they go look at my lineups and he's not in it. You know, there's always some things that could change based on injuries. If, you know, like CJ McCollum was randomly ruled out, sure, Alvarado looked better. But as of now, Alvarado's not in lineups for me. Next question is a super chat from Troy is a boss, James. Well, that's an involved first name. Troy is a boss, James. Top plays for each position on FanDuel. Yeah, I will. I feel bad because I actually just did this question, but I'll read it off again. Going to FanDuel. Thank you for the super chat, though. Troy is a boss. Point guard, Tyrese Maxey. Shooting guard, Herb Jones. Small forward, Jalen Johnson. Power forward, Jayshawn Tate. Center, Jared Allen. Then James Magruder left us a super chat. Wants to know for 4,400 or less for a utility, who do we like? And he has an interesting mix, or an interesting caveat brought into the mix, which is it cannot be Josh Green, Duop Reith, or Jovic. So this is a fun way to look at the slate, Matt. Who is our favorite value option that is not Green, Reith, or Jovic? So 4,400 or less.
For me, it's going to be Larry Nance. Hard to get to because he's only center eligible, but he's splitting the minutes with J-Val right now. He provides them with a lot of defensive versatility. again, backup center. So don't want to like, put all your eggs in that basket, but he's 4,300. He's been productive recently. There isn't a ton of value. Give me Nance.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Jackson, and he's a little more popular this slate than he was on some other slates. But Isaiah Jackson is such a good points per minute fantasy producer that all it takes is some garbage run, a little bit of foul trouble to Miles Turner, or he just plays like 18 minutes as opposed to playing 16 minutes, and the guy could all of a sudden smash. So if we're looking at a guy with upside, very, very high variance in Isaiah Jackson, but I always like the ceiling that he has. He's somebody I've been playing quite a bit as of late. Our data and tools have been high on Isaiah Jackson. So that's not quite contrarian play, but somebody who's a little bit lower owned than those options that you put out there. He is lower owned than Reith, Jovic, and Green. So give me Isaiah Jackson as the pivot.
And
guys,
not just that he's lower owned, but like if you're not playing Reith, who I think will pick up steam as the night goes on, you're gaining a lot of ownership leverage that way. So like if Jackson just outscores Reith, you're in a good spot. I liked Jackson a lot before all this Reith talk. Our projections like Reith a lot more. So I'm going with Reith, but won't be surprised at all. Like if Jackson outscores him, if he somehow walks into, 20 plus minutes.
Shout out to a Peyton Bunn who left us a super chat. There's no question here. So Peyton, you don't have to don't leave us another super chat, but if you do have a question, just throw it into the YouTube chat. I'm on the lookout for a question here. Oh, he did ask, here it is. He wants to know if I missed tiers. You did miss tiers, but no worries there, Peyton. I'm going to pull up tiers back up again and give you the answers, and I'll refresh to make sure nothing's changed since we last answered, because who knows, maybe something's changed since the top of the show. But Peyton, don't worry, we got you covered, and I appreciate the super chat very much. Tier 1, Joel Embiid. Tier 2, Tyrese Halliburton. Tier 3, Julius Randle, the original Dr. J. People don't know that, Matt. Dr. J was named after Julius Randle. Nobody knows that. And Julius Randle, not a doctor. Dr. J is, but yeah, the original Dr. J, Julius Randle in tier 3. Tier 4, that is Şengün. Tier 5, we've got Jared Allen and Kyrie Irving, both as good options in this tier. So it's going to depend a little bit what ends up happening with Luka as far as who I prefer. So if we end up finding out that Luka is out, I like Kyrie Irving. If not, I like Jared Allen in tier 5. And then tier 6 for me, Kristaps Porzingis. Thank you very much for the super chat, Peyton. And yeah, don't worry about, I saw that he was the crying emoji in there because it crashed. No big deal. We found the question. Let's see what else we have in here. Clyde wants to know if Caruso and Williams are out, how do you play that knowing we won't know? Yeah, so this is one of the ones where I don't feel like I have to make any adjustments to my lineups going into the slate for the potential that these guys are going to sit. Here's the good news, though, is that I do think that just because I've already made some preparations for my lineups for the event that stuff like Luka's out, keep in mind that that game is going to be before the Dallas-Portland game. So as long as you've already made reservations in your lineups, like done something like Einsteinian before mentioned, giving an ROI upgrade to Kyrie Irving. If you do an ROI up boost to Kyrie Irving, you've already given yourself more exposure to that later Dallas game, which is going to make it easier to prepare for the Caruso and Williams news. But these kinds of players are not ones who I go out of my way to make, certain alterations to my lineups for. For somebody like Luka, absolutely. For somebody like Alex Caruso being questionable, I don't all of a sudden go like, oh crap, I have to get more like Ayo Dosunmu just in case. It's one where it's like, if those players are out, it'll impact my lineups, but I'm not preparing for it before the slate. Is that kind of how you feel as well?
Yeah, I don't even know if those guys being out like gets me on anything. It makes everything on Chicago look more desirable because they're facing Charlotte, but Levine and Vooch are back. So Vooch being back takes Drummond completely out of play. Vooch isn't in play, only playing 25 minutes or whatever. And then like, yeah, you can get to like the Sunmus and maybe like a Dalen Terry. That would be the guy, Dalen Terry. Just speaking out loud on that I would be interested in getting to. If Williams is out, if both are out, I think you can take a hard look at him.
Got a super chat from Jake Lindland, and apologies. He said he asked a $5 super chat at the end of the first show. I'm going to assume that Eric didn't answer because he's no good at his job. Mike, is that it's on? Okay. And just to clarify, because I want to make sure that we ream Eric for this, because he's going to get a few lashings for this, which is unfortunate because I always have found, Matt, that lashing people, striking them is a punishment. Eric demands it, though. Like he'll text me in the morning, like, can you hit me again? I'm like, oh God, not this again. But anyway, Eric, multiple lashings for missing the super chat from Jake Lindland. Did he miss any of the other ones in here as well? He probably did. Did he answer Skylar's super chat? Do you remember? I'll answer it now anyway. Did he answer that one, Mike? Fucking course he didn't. Oh my God. All right, let's answer these. Don't worry, we'll pick up the slack. We'll cover for Eric. He's not used to doing anything. Jake Lindland says a single bullet in the DK 600. Thoughts on the Lucas situation? Currently fading Mitchell in favor of Kyrie. Is that foolish? Also, favorite player from Indiana, Atlanta. Yeah, so my favorite players from Indiana, Atlanta are Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Johnson. That game is a ridiculous total, 262 points. I do not think that's ridiculous at all to play Kyrie Irving instead of Donovan Mitchell. If there is the situation where Luka is out, if we knew right now that Luka's out, I would be playing more of Kyrie than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, just because of the prices. Like,
and we just got the news. Mark Stein, Luka Doncic, unlikely to play Friday. So there we go. Everybody go and load up on Kyrie Irving. Load up on Josh Green as well. This is a big boost.
Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, a big boost for everybody here. Let's pull
Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure we answer the rest of the super chats, but I also want to go ahead and look at some of the on-off court numbers for Dallas this year when Luka is off the court. So I'm going to start pulling that up while I continue to answer these questions. The next super chat we have is from Skylar Bernard. And Skylar, I apologize that Eric's terrible at his job, but don't worry, we're getting the question answered for you here. Love tuning into the show every day. Every day he watches the show, and Eric couldn't answer his question. Took a break from DFS due to work, but been on a heater since I came back because of you guys. Great stress reliever listening to you guys too. Thanks for everything. Skylar, thank you. And once again, I apologize for that absolute piece of shit, Eric Lindquist. Absolutely apologize. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see what else we have. Strickstein wants to know thoughts on Bol Bol. I'm not getting to Bol Bol today. People love Bol Bol. I get it. He's tall. He's goofy looking. If he was starting, he's a good enough fantasy producer. But no, I'm not getting to Bol Bol today. Any interest for you in Bol Bol?
I'm not playing him, but that doesn't mean he's like the craziest play on the world, given the value and the fact that like Phoenix is desperate. So I think you need like Nas Little to be out in order to take that shot. But if Nas Little is out, I don't hate it.
All right. I've got the numbers up here now, Matt. And leading the team in fantasy production this year with Luka off the court, we've got Kyrie, scores 1.36 fantasy points per minute. Tim Hardaway, 1.2. So if we look at those two guys, like if you're going to be paying up for somebody, those are the guys you want to look at, right? Because if you get 1.36 fantasy points for Kyrie Irving, if you just gave him 36 minutes, you're looking at, right around 50 fantasy points in like a neutral matchup, considering his per minute production this year in minutes without Luka. And then you mentioned also Tim Hardaway Jr. at 1.2. I mean, these guys look great, right? These are players from Dallas that really want to get to. Josh Green already looked good. He's going to look even better. And let me pull up our projections here. When they do update, I'll pull them up and start reading them off. And Mike, I'll let you know when they're updated and they're updated. Mike, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the Dallas Mavericks updated projections here. Let's look at Dallas. So Dallas projections. We'll look at both FanDuel and, well, actually, this game isn't on the FanDuel slate, just DraftKings. So this is going to make it easier here. And now Luka is out officially. So we know that there's going to be no Luka tonight. And yeah, so the FanDuel slate only has the games up to the 8 p.m. game. So it doesn't impact the FanDuel slate. For the DraftKings slate, Mike's got it on screen here. Here are the updated projections we have for these guys here, Matt. Leading the way, Kyrie Irving, 57.69 fantasy points. A massive projection we have on Kyrie. You guys want to be playing Kyrie. That's
crazy.
Tonight. You want to be playing Kyrie. Beyond him, we've got Tim Hardaway Jr. right now for 31 fantasy points. Now, with that said, we only have him in for 30 minutes. I do think there's more playing time upside for Tim Hardaway. I don't know that his minutes are guaranteed, but he's certainly somebody to get to, because even in only 30 minutes, we have him project for 31 fantasy points here. So Tim Hardaway certainly looks good as well. Derek Lively, not really a whole lot doing there. Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, those are some other. I prefer Josh Green to Jaden Hardy, especially because he plays positions that are a little bit harder to fill. It does put Hardy into play, and then Seth Curry kind of like a punt option here as well that you can look at. Lots of usage opens up, lots of playing time in the absence of Luka. Kyrie is going to be the primary benefactor. Anything else you're seeing here that you like, Matt, from the Mavericks?
No, but everyone's in play now. Like,
and
even,
Lively's
like-
out now too. So, oh my God.
so like then they're already missing Holmes. Is Dwight Powell someone we want?
No, because he's 4,300 on DraftKings. So there's other guys I'm going to prefer. I do like Grant Williams at 3,800 now.
Is he going to start?
$3,800. Regardless,
Does it matter?
Lively's out, Luka's out. No matter what, I have to imagine this means more playing time and more usage for Grant Williams, even if he was to come off the bench. And especially too, if you consider that, I mean, it is a matchup against Portland. So maybe this is a little bit, less relevant in terms of like wanting to get more offense on the court in the absence of Luka. But I still do think that you probably want to be getting more offense on the court. And that ultimately means Grant Williams instead of Dwight Powell.
Yeah.
Line move too.
What?
I was just saying the line moved 2 points. It's down 7.
Yeah. I mean, Luka being out is going to move the line.
Yeah. I'm sure it's been creeping down after that questionable news came out, whenever that did. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think okay, how about this? I talked about Larry Nance earlier. He's 4,300. I think I like Powell over Nance now.
Let's see what we've got for some more questions that we can answer here in the Discord. And then also if we do end up, when we do, oh, by the way, it's already here. Lee must be just on fire with the projections today, because I keep saying that we're going to go back to the projections when there's an update, and then we got an update here quite quickly. So we've got everything updated now for the absence of Lively, in addition to the absence of Luka Doncic, and now we have Grant Williams projected for a little bit over 20 fantasy points. Powell is serviceable now, but still not quite a priority. I'm going to be getting to more I think Grant Williams is more of a priority than Dwight Powell for a couple of reasons. Number one, $500 cheaper, but then also the power forward eligibility in addition to the center eligibility there. So yeah, nothing massively that changes in the absence of Derek Lively, but it does make Grant Williams look better there. And let's see what else we have in terms of questions. Riley Cooper 14 just said Grant Williams or Bol Bol. I prefer Grant Williams. How about you, Matt? If you're going to Grant Williams or Bol Bol, which side of the equation do you land on?
If you need 18 DraftKings points, it's Williams. If you're shooting for 30, it's Bol Bol.
I still think there's a higher ceiling for Grant Williams as well. I mean, Luka and Lively
No
are
way.
both out.
I mean, Williams is so bad though. Like, he is just not good.
So is Bol Bol.
Yeah, but Bol Bol's not good in real life. He's good in fantasy. Grant Williams is like decent in real life, but stinks in fantasy. Like, yeah, Grant Williams. I mean, listen, this is coming from the guy that got Chetty Osman dropping 35 on him. So I wouldn't be shocked if Grant Williams goes off too. But I personally feel like Bol Bol has higher upside. Maybe I'm wrong.
Here's a question. What do you think is the most fantasy points we've gotten all year out of Grant Williams?
I feel like he did have a couple good games. I'm going to say 30.
38. He does have a 38.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's, I guess, in him like a couple times a year.
Let's see what else. I mean, I agree with you. Grant Williams is not the best fantasy producer. It's just there's so many guys out now for the Mavericks that it makes him somebody who's worth getting to here. Yurtowel. No. Yurtowel. All right, he's asking us best shooting guard or small forward for 5,500 and under on FanDuel. Let's see. 5,500 or under on FanDuel. Shooting guard or small forward. Okay. All right. Let's see what do I have here. 5,500 or less. Shooting guard or small forward. Let's see. Herb Jones. Pretty easy for me, actually. And shooting guard and small forward. So whichever spot you want to put it at. Herb Jones, $5,300. That's your guy to play there. Next question we have. Let's bang out some questions in Discord as quickly as we can. If you're working on your lineups, Matt, don't worry. I'll answer these questions. I'll let you finish your lineups there. We have Strickstein asking thoughts on Bol Bol. There's just other guys I like better tonight. Got Bol Bol projected for 14 fantasy points. There's a lot of players that are priced similarly that have better projections at this point. Sorry, Matt, I'm not going to let you speak for yourself because you're building your lineups. Boyle, 5,000, wants to know Dante DiVincenzo or Grayson Allen. I prefer Dante DiVincenzo. Big role that DiVincenzo is filling for the Knicks as of late. King Yusuf is asking thoughts on Jalen Johnson on DK. Feels like he should be in a smash spot. I mean, the game has a total of 1,000,000 points. Yes, I do think that Jalen Williams is somebody to be getting to over on DK. The next question that we have here is from Kareem. He wants to know, do I think Patrick Williams plays? I don't have a great feel for it. There is so many other players been ruled out at this point, like the Mavericks news that just broke out of nowhere, that the Bulls news does become less pressing now. So if we see Patrick Williams and Alex Caruso both ruled out, sure, it creates some value from Chicago, but nothing that's going to be like massively important. Definitely not to prioritize over the Dallas Mavericks. M. Grizzly wants to know, do we trust Isaiah Jackson tonight? I liked Isaiah Jackson a few minutes ago, but less so now that we just had all this value open up from Dallas. If he's in some lineups, sure, go ahead and play Isaiah Jackson, but other guys that I'm going to like better from the Mavericks at this point. Modub T has built a player with all white lineups, and he wants to know what Eric thought about it in the Discord chat. Eric, I would appreciate you going into Discord to answer that. And then Einsteinium wants to know thoughts on Bol instead of Reith or Baji. I'd rather play Reith than Bol. I'd rather play Bol than Baji. Clyde says, I know you know this, but given how much you're talking about Luka and you're playing on FanDuel, the Dallas game is not on the main slate. Yep. Not on that slate. Rocky Raccoon 7 saying, Eric doesn't answer my questions either. So boy, Eric's getting it from everybody here. This is what happens. We've got Eric is not answering questions here. Rocky Raccoon either. Eric, why don't you answer Rocky Raccoon's questions? Einsteinium wants to know, is Luke Cornett being overlooked? Is it crazy spending $200 to forego Reith? I don't really. Are you playing, or do you consider Luke Cornett at all? I know that Horford's out, but the last time we saw the big game from Cornett, there was more players out from Boston.
Yeah, Porzingis was out. Or maybe, I don't know. No, I'm not playing Cornett here. Like, no.
Yeah, I am not playing Luke Cornett. Next question that we have is from Pusha. Baji and Jackson are Reith and Wright. That is Reith and Wright for me. And then we've got best cheap shooting guard under 4,300. Who's your favorite shooting guard under 4,300, Matt?
Favorite shooting guard under 4,300. Oh, it would have been Hardy, but clearly not. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Let's see, 4,300.
Just like not a range I'm getting to at all.
The options are definitely not great. They're not great. So let's see, 4,300 at shooting guard. So let me go just by shooting guards. 4,300. Anybody I really want to recommend him play here? Like Hardy's above. Yeah, the answer is going to be Seth Curry. I mean, there is some potential for him to play extra minutes in the absence of Luka. So I'll go Seth Curry there. Corey Shea wants to know, is it's still Jovic and Reith over Josh Green? Now, no. Now I prefer, I like Josh Green the most of those guys.
Yeah, Josh Green looks elite now for sure.
Yeah. I like Josh Green over those fellas for sure. So I think that you should be going to Josh Green for sure in your lineup now. Now let's see if there's any other questions I can answer really quickly here. And Jets World wants to know, is Grant Williams better than Reith or Powell? I like Grant Williams more than Powell. I still like Reith more than Grant Williams though. And then as for everything else, I think we're all set here. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you've got any more questions for myself as more news breaks, I'm going to be hanging out in the Stochastic Discord all night. If you want to sign up for a package, we do have the most affordable package on the site, is our lineup generator package. Less than $15. You get lineups built for you. It includes our projections. It includes our ownership projections. And sorry, we did get one more super chat that came in late. Corey Shea is asking us, Jovic or Reith? So final question here before we sign off here, Matt. Jovic or Reith, which way do you go for Corey Shea?
I hate this. I'm like the person in class who's talking after the bell rings, but that's a loaded question, man. Because like if you have Jovic has power forward eligibility, so in a sense he's better. He's also more expensive. I'm gonna say Reith, but it just depends on your lineup construction.
Yeah, if you could play either of
Reith.
them with no issues with, I mean, so I'm gonna say Jovic. Like if you have the salary to play both.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Then Jovic. So if you have the salary to say both, then Jovic there. But guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great weekend. I'm gonna see you back here. Well, I'll be back here tomorrow, but still have a great weekend anyway. Peace out.